guys, welcome to the podcast. I hope you like the intro there. A little bit different. It's the third different-ish intro to the podcast. So I hope that's kept you entertained while you guys have been waiting. Welcome to episode 4 of the PlayStation podcast. Weekly podcast where we talk about all things gaming and, of course, PlayStation. Hope everyone is well on this cooler Sunday evening, should I add. Not the heat wave that we've had in the last couple of weeks. How you doing, guys? Tox, Mark, Archie, Petrov. Hope you guys are keeping well. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on the intro. And while we wait for people to file in, cheers, Petrov. While we wait for people to file in, I'll go over the housekeeping, and then we'll crack on with the podcast. We've got a lot to talk about today. So, as I always do, right now, this area here, this is what I call the hangout. I've got to get a label for this at some point. But yeah, call it the hangout. We'll chill here for a little while we wait for people to join us, and then we'll get the podcast up and running. And we will take a look at the main topics, as you can see over here. We'll get onto that shortly. But I do want to give a shout out, like I do each week. Shout out to the God of War and Uncharted members who go above and beyond supporting the channel directly with their memberships. Thank you guys ever so much. The names of those channel members you can see scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Still hot in the US, Corey. I'm jealous. I'm really jealous. I also want to shout out to the rest of the guys who, you might not be members, but you turn up day in and day out. You support the videos, you support the posts, the streams, and everything else on the channel. You're always turning up, and you show your amazing support on the channel. So appreciate you guys all the time for everything you guys do on the channel. But how can you support the channel? First and foremost, you guys being here on the podcast, whether it's live, whether it's later on when you're free, because I appreciate not everybody can turn up to the podcast when we stream on a Sunday night in the UK. Some people catch it during the week. The number one thing you guys can do is just be here, support the channel, support the content. Watch the videos, watch the live stream, engage with the content. That supports the channel more than anything else. Other ways you can support the channel, hit that like button. Hit that like button. That helps out incredibly well. It tells me that you're enjoying the weekly podcast, whether it's today or after the event. It also tells YouTube that the community on the channel is enjoying the streams and the channel in general. And what it does, it allows YouTube to recommend bits from the channel. Perhaps it's the live stream, perhaps it's the videos, and it spreads it to a wider audience, and it recommends content to people, whether it's gaming, whether it's the PlayStation stuff, where there's other things on the channel that we do. It recommends it to other people, and it slowly helps grow the channel. If it's within your means, guys, consider becoming a channel member and support the channel directly. We have 2 tiers. That's the God of War and the Uncharted level, and there will be some customized artwork coming later in the year. Keep an eye on that. You can become a channel subscriber. Subscribe to the channel. Never miss any videos, posts, or podcasts. And other ways you can support. Send a super chat. Have your say. If you want us to discuss something, put forward a super chat. If you want to get something off your chest, if something's been niggling you and you want to make a statement, if you want to discuss something that's important to you within the gaming industry, you want to debate something, say something controversial, put forward a super chat and have your moment. But at the very least, to support the channel and the community here on YouTube, you guys being here on the podcast, watching the videos day in, day out, hitting that like button, that's more than enough to support the channel. So, housekeeping done and dusted. How is everybody feeling? How you doing, Miguel? Hope you are doing well. Hope you are keeping well. So do I need to ask you guys what you're playing right now? Are you guys still playing Death Stranding 2? And before we jump into the rest of the topics today, I'm disappointed at the moment. Disappointed with my progress in Death Stranding 2. I've had a disappointing week from a gaming perspective. I've not really had a chance to play hardly anything at all. Just so much to do work-wise. And I'm hoping this week I'll get a bit more of an opportunity to go back in and continue my journey with Death Stranding. So this is the problem I have, guys, on the channel. When you try and run a YouTube channel work, run a business, family, kids, and all that kind of stuff, right? Sometimes gaming has to jump onto the back burner, which is a real shame. But I hope to get a chance to continue my Death Stranding journey during the week. How you doing, GLP Gamer? Hope you're keeping well, buddy. So, guys, let me know in the comments what you guys are playing right now. If it's Death Stranding 2, yeah, PoE. What's that? What's PoE 2? What game's that? Well, mine's gone blank. Death Stranding 2 Game of the Year, Miguel, you're saying? Corey, no doubt you've platinumed it. Okay. One of the things I wanted to look at, guys, I do a lot of channel polls each week. Sometimes they're pretty obvious, you know, PlayStation centric YouTube channel. So I kind of expect. Sometimes I expect. I know what the results are going to be. Path of Exile 2. Okay. So sometimes the results are a lot closer than I thought, and I thought we'd just have a quick look, not too much detail, but a quick look at some of the channel polls that we run. And maybe we'll do this on a weekly basis, do kind of a quick review of the last 7 days of the channel polls. I think it might be some interesting reading into that. So let's just switch that on. And we'll turn that video off. I'll just move that over here. So those that follow the channel know that I do daily polls. And for those that are new, if you head on over to the posts section, or it used to be called community tab. I don't know if that's still the name. On mine it says posts. I'm pretty sure it's going to say posts for everybody. But yeah, there's a couple of pretty close polls here. I thought it made for some interesting reading. I did this one earlier, and I kind of know what the outcome's going to be. It's a bit fanboyish, but sometimes you just got to follow the trend. So, what platform has the most extreme saltiest fanboys? It's very early. It's got 330 votes. 9 hours in. It's a trick question, if I'm honest with you guys, because all fanboys are the same. They're all the same. Okay, it makes no difference to the average person who games. You just want to play good games, right? But all fanboys are the same. It's interesting reading some of the comments coming out from this post. People blaming each other. People blaming each other's platforms. And they don't realize they're doing exactly the same. It's a trick question, this. People are falling for it. Then we have... when will PlayStation 6 launch? When are Sony thinking about launching the PlayStation 6? Because a lot of people are thinking or hoping that it gets pushed back into maybe 2027, maybe 2028 or later. 55% of you that have voted are saying 2028, with 2027 coming in at 32%, second place. In your opinion, guys, what is the most underrated or underappreciated PlayStation console exclusive game? And 58% of you have said it's Days Gone. The other games on that list, there you go: Gravity Rush, The Order, 1886, Shadow of the Colossus, and Days Gone. I mean, Days Gone had it had a rough patch when it originally launched, but the game was actually pretty good still. The Order got a lot of stick for, I think it was the length. The game length got a lot of stick. It was only about 6 or 7 hours long, right? Plus it had a bad launch, and you combine the two things together. And a lot of people said the cinematics were too long, but the game had a lot of content taken out because they were up against a tight deadline. But it's a shame, because I really enjoyed the Order 1886. GLP is saying definitely Xbox gamers in terms of saltiest fanboys. Bomb Squad, how you doing, buddy? Another podcast to finish off the week. The only way, absolutely. Absolutely. Tox, you're saying 2030 for the PlayStation 6. Petrov, you're saying Xbox more salty. Days Gone, GLP Gaming, most underrated game. The Order. Tox, 1886, John B. We were definitely screwed over not getting a Days Gone 2. I agree. Days Gone 2 needs to happen, and I hope it does happen. There's so much more to that game. And even The Order 1886, there's so much more to that game. It definitely deserves a sequel. Apparently it was pitched as a series of games, right? 3 games I think they were pitching in for. But I thought these polls are interesting. We'll talk about Helldivers shortly, but over 300 people voted that it was a good thing that Sony allowed or released Helldivers 2 onto Xbox. Multiplayer games need online players. So 83%. So it's a big majority, that. Really big majority. How you doing, Raz? How you doing, buddy? Barbecuing in a holiday weekend in the US. That is fantastic. But you're still here. You're still joining us on the podcast. You're listening to it. Fantastic, buddy. Appreciate it. Appreciate you tuning in. So yeah, I thought that poll there of 83% people on the whoever voted thought that it's a good idea, and I have to say I do agree. Corey, you're saying it's you're okay with a new Days Gone if it was a new protagonist and a new story. Yeah, it depends on how they want to progress the story, right? You don't want the same thing happening in the sequel, otherwise it starts to become stale. But I would like another game with Deacon in, if I'm honest. What's the best PlayStation controller? We had over 800 votes on this. 86% have said the best controller is the DualSense. Actually, a couple of people said the PlayStation 1 controller. But the DualSense for me is absolutely fantastic. GLP Gammy is saying you were shocked about Helldivers 2, but 100% understand. Yeah, we'll move on to that in one of our topics, but I think it's the timing more than anything else. The timing is more of a surprise. I think that's what's caught people off guard. GLP Gamer, you're saying DualSense Edge. DualSense, yeah, I've not really played with the DualSense Edge. I've tried it once. So I'm just going with the standard controller that pretty much everybody buys either on launch or they buy an extra controller. Just going with the standard stuff. I think the elite controllers are always going to be designed to be the best of the best, right? Corey saying DualSense Edge, specifically the Edge controller. I've had a lot of people say the Edge controller, but I've just stuck with the kind of the common, the average controller that comes out. Toxie saying Sony needs those IPs alive more than ever. Days Gone 2, 1886, Killzone. Yeah, 100%. 100%. There's a lot that Sony can do with their existing IP, their backlog of games, their back catalogue. There's so much potential and so much money to be made. It's easy money for Sony too. I just don't understand why they don't move ahead and tap into that. Toxie saying the best feature of the PlayStation 5 is the DualSense. Every controller got better, according to Miguel. Yeah, there was a kind of an incremental improvement with each version. GLP Gamer, you can't go back now to the standard ones. Yeah, it does feel weird, If I pick up the, because I've got my PlayStation 3 hooked up. If I pick up the PS3, or even if I go onto the Xbox every now and again, it feels weird. It's that weight, the weight of the heavier controller, the DualSense. It feels a bit more premium, right? And then you go back and pick up whether it's a PS3 controller, PS4 controller, the Xbox controller. They feel significantly lighter in comparison. I'm not saying they feel cheaper. They just don't feel right. So I think once you play with the DualSense, you can't go back. Not in my opinion, anyway. Bloodborne 4 days ago put out a post. Bloodborne, a movie potentially in the works. Do you think Sony will tie a Bloodborne remaster for the PS5 or development on a Bloodborne 2? I've got to say, it's not too much of a difference here. 56%, yeah, great timing to coincide with a movie. 44%, it's never going to happen. It's one of them, isn't it? It's a From Software game. It's complicated trying to get maybe a Bloodborne remaster. Do you have to get From Software involved? Could you use another studio? Could Bluepoint Games help, given what they've done with Demon's Souls? So it's it's one of them, isn't it? But could they make a Bloodborne 2 with a different studio? That's possible, isn't it? But yeah, interesting. Almost a 50-50 split there. Corey saying a lot of those IPs don't have a team that is passionate about the game to make that game as well. Yeah, you said it, I think, a couple of weeks back when we had this discussion about older games. Maybe there isn't the demand. Maybe there isn't just that. I know we talk about it on the channel. I swear I've seen so many people talk about it on social media, but maybe the actual demand is not there. I don't know. It's always subjective because we always like older games. A lot of people love PlayStation 1 games, PS2 games, but it's all subjective, isn't it? But you just feel that there's so much money on the table if Sony had a team, a couple of teams, it doesn't have to be big. I mean, we had a small team that made Expedition 33. We've had a small team that made Astrobot. These are teams of between 30 and 60 developers. If they had 2 or 3 of these teams focusing on, hell, I'll take remasters, I'll take remakes of Resistance, Killzone, MAG, SOCOM, right? The Order 1886, Bloodborne. I'll take those games. And if we had smaller studios turning these games over every 3 years, 3.5, 4 years, they will sell like hotcakes, and they were exclusive to PlayStation's ecosystem. It'll keep people locked into the system. Anyway, these going off on a tangent. GLP Gamer, you're holding off Bloodborne until a 60 frame per second patch. I know a lot of people have been holding off for that. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if they're ever going to release a 60 frame per second patch. Toxie saying Miyazaki needs to be involved. He does. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree, Corey. This is why I put it out there with, and Sony's kind of view of, if they're going to make a movie or a TV show, let's tie it into a game, because what they've done with The Last of Us HBO series and all these remakes and remasters of The Last of Us, there's a correlation in increased sales in the game following the TV show. Rightly or wrongly, that's happening. And we'll see it when the Ghosts of Tsushima, I think it's movie, right, or TV show, when that launches, the God of War stuff too. You can almost guarantee there's going to be some kind of a remake, remaster, or a sequel to tie both entities together, so one has a knock-on effect on the other. Well, that's what Sony's hoping for anyway. And I can see that if this Bloodborne movie thing is actually happening, I can see something where they say, right, now's the time to go ahead and either introduce a 60 frames per second patch or get a sequel up and running, tie it in with the launch of the movie, and you've got gamers that are happy, they're probably going to go and watch the movie, and vice versa. Off the movie, you're going to get people who might dip into the game. So I think there's logic there, but will they actually go ahead and do it? I just don't know. Petrov is saying the DualSense Edge costs $250 in Sweden. That's a lot, man. That's a lot. See, when I see these controllers, I mean, I'm not doubting the quality of the DualSense Edge controller. But when someone says it's going to cost £200 or £300 to pick that controller up, it puts me off straight away. I'd rather put it towards the PSVR 2 or get a handheld or something. But I do recognise that it's an elite controller, so maybe I need to try it one day. Tox is saying your Bloodborne Platinum is your most prized digital possession. Wow, that, you know what? Imagine you had the opportunity to go back and play it on the PlayStation 5 Pro with all the bells and whistles, enhancements, better graphics, better visuals, better frame rates, ray tracing. That's worth it, isn't it? Corey, you're saying your external stance is that the internet community is a small portion of the entire game market, and often the things that matter so much to the internet don't matter at all to the larger gaming market. Yeah, we've seen that with a lot of the discourse around certain topics on X, YouTube, Facebook, all the TikTok, let's throw that in the mix. You see a lot of people complain and argue. We saw it when the PlayStation 5 was announced, right? We're not going to buy it. It's too much. Oh my God, you can build a PC. What happened? Everybody went out and bought it. You couldn't get a PlayStation 5 Pro. It was sold out everywhere. So, yeah, there's merit to that. That's what I'm saying. Sony needs to find a way to directly tap into the user base and figure out, how do we bring these IPs back, if at all they are popular and in demand. Anyway, what's the best PlayStation generation most of the votes went to PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 4 here, because the PlayStation 2 was just, for me, it's an iconic PlayStation era. The PlayStation that had the DVD built in, right? Didn't need a DVD player, which back in the days used to cost £400 in the UK. So we had a console, which I think it was launched for around 200. No, when I got it, it was about 250 to £300. Was it more than that? It may have been more than that, actually. But I just remember saying my kind of sales pitch was, hey, I'll get a console and a DVD player in one. And that for me will always be the iconic, most classic console in my mind. But of course, the PlayStation 5 is where I enjoy most of my games. PS2 or PS4, you're saying, Petrov? So PlayStation, excuse me, PlayStation 2 here got 40% of the votes. PlayStation 4 got 33% of the votes. And this was the one that, the next one, right? The next poll. This is the one that decided me to do this on the channel, because nearly 1,000 people voted, right? Like I said, we're a small channel, small community. We're still growing. 1,000 people voted on this. What's your most anticipated PlayStation 5 console game? And it's almost neck and neck between Ghost of Yotai and Wolverine. And I find that really, I find it really surprising. I'm not knocking any games here. Yeah, pretty close actually. 47% rooting for Wolverine as their most anticipated game. Ghost of Yotai 41%. And of course, Saros and Lost Soul aside, at this stage, when you're up against Ghost of Yotai and Wolverine, you haven't got a chance at this stage, right? Miguel is saying your PC is €2,500. Ghost of Yotai for GLP Gamer. Yotai 100%. Petrov. It's close, man. It's close. Well, that's what I just want to go back over 7 days on the poll, because I think it's good we can look at this and reflect back of the previous 7 days worth of activity on the polls and just have a look. Might be some interesting facts and figures coming out from there. Obviously, it's all subjective. How you doing, Stephen, buddy? How you doing? The PS5 Pro sold more than Sony expected, not to mention the Portal. I think PlayStation hardware sells well. Yeah, it does. Always does. And there was a lot of people that criticized the Portal when it first came out, that it was essentially it was you tethered, aren't you, to a PS5. You've got to have a PS5 to enjoy it. But actually, you couldn't get a PS Portal anyway. They were sold out. The demand was so good. And it ticked that box where if you wanted to play, you know, an hour in the evening when you're sitting in bed, or somebody else wanted to use the TV and you went off into another room, you could use the Portal. It's fantastic for that. But yeah, so when the handheld comes out, reportedly around the time when the PS6 is going to come out, there's going to be a lot of features built in and packed into that handheld. I just hope it is a proper handheld, not restricted by having to have a PS5 or a PS6. I think it will be a out and out proper handheld like the previous ones that Sony used to make. Razi saying PS3 for you with Bluetooth, Blu-ray, high definition, the launch of PlayStation Network, web browser, media center. It started the basics and build for what you have today. The PS3 was a beast. Absolute beast. There was a lot of features that a lot of people used to use. I remember back in the day, years ago, when you actually used to download movies onto USB sticks or, you know, external hard drives, and you plug that into your PlayStation 3. Yeah, fantastic media device for the day. Stephen, you're looking forward to Ghost of Yotai. It's your most anticipated game of the year. And me, Ghost of Tsushima for me is probably one of my all-time favorite games. The Last of Us, both 1 and 2 are up there as well. Red Dead Redemption as well. But Ghost of Tsushima for me, it just hits on another level. It was one of my favorite games. And the way I hear the devs talk about Ghost of Yotai, and they want to go one up. They want to improve, right? Everybody wants to improve on their previous game. So I'm fascinated to see how they're going to take Ghosts of Yotai and go one up on Ghosts of Tsushima. So fascinating to watch what they're going to do. And of course, this month we're going to get a PlayStation State of Play dedicated to Ghosts of Yotai, which is something to look forward to. And I hope we get a sneak peek at maybe one or two other PlayStation games that are coming up, like Lost Soul Aside, maybe Saros, maybe even Wolverine. So that's the poll. I just wanted to, like I said, just have a sneak peek at some of the things happening from a poll perspective, what you guys might be thinking, what the results are. But we'll take a look now at the topics that we're going to be talking about today. So here we go. So as always, we've got two sections on the podcast. The first section, we always look at the main news, rumors, leaks, the in-depth articles, the stories that are making the headlines for the week. And in the second section, we take a look at some of the games we're most excited about, including new games coming out, future upcoming games, or even games that were previously not on our radar. And this is a quick look at games. But the first part is the kind of the in-depth stuff. So the first section, which is all about the news articles, the stories, the reports and things. The first one obviously is going to be about Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox. Sony have announced that Helldivers 2 will be coming to Xbox. The game is due to launch on August. I believe it's the 26th, the same day, ironically, that Gears of War from Xbox comes to PlayStation. That's going to be an interesting day, isn't it? Then, topic number 2. It's an interesting one because I went over these several different articles, actually, and there's still a little bit of conflicting information coming out about PSSR 2.0. And Sony have come out and they've reiterated that they'll be coming out with a much bigger and improved PSSR update in 2026. And this one takes inspiration or integration from FSR 4, and that PS6 will have a highly advanced architecture following on from the collaboration with AMD. So that's topic 2. Topic 3, I think might be quite divisive actually, because it's about the Microsoft Xbox cuts. Who's to blame? And Microsoft has laid off. I think this is their third round of layoffs inside, I think 18 months. And this time around, they laid off 9,000 minimum employees, many right across the gaming division. But who is to blame for this? Whose fault is it? Are we blaming gamers for not buying games? Are we blaming Game Pass for conditioning the gamers to expect games for free? Is it Satya Nadella and Phil Spencer for thinking they can do a Netflix of gaming with Game Pass? Is it down to the overspending on acquisitions? Is it the adoption of AI technology? Or is it a combination of all of it? All of that stuff? Is it poor leadership? We'll discuss that in more detail. That's our third topic. And then the fourth topic for the kind of the discussion bits. MindsEye. The CEO of MindsEye, Leslie Benzie, is talking about relaunching MindsEye. So what can only be regarded as the worst game in 2025 and arguably one of the worst games to come out over recent years. The studio CEO at Builder Rocket Boy wants to relaunch the game following on for the disaster that is MindsEye. So we'll look at that later on. And then the second part, the gaming spotlight. So think of it like a quick fire round. We'll look at some new reports of games. So first of all, we've got, don't know if you guys remember this, but rumors of a new Call of Juarez or Call of Juarez game in development. Bit like a Red Dead Redemption type game, but like a Wild West. There was lots of games back in the day, Call of Juarez games. So that's something to talk about. Battlefield 6, a game I'm looking forward to. Reportedly, this game's cost over $400 million, and their target is having over 100 million players play this game. So make of that what you want, but we'll talk about that. Hell is Us turns gold. Looking forward to that game. Red Dead Redemption gets some new missions. There's a new Ghost Recon game in development, a new Ace Combat game in development, and a new Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake game in the works. So quite a lot to go through, and we'll discuss all that in the podcast. So hope you guys are ready. Hope you got your snacks ready. And just before we begin, I often forget to say this, but guys, hit that like button. So before we crack on and start with the stories, what are you guys are saying here? Miguel, you're saying Yotai for you. We haven't seen nothing from Wolverine. That's true. That original trailer a few years ago, but that was it. Corey, you're saying Lost Soul Aside is a game that needs more marketing. Yeah, it's kind of gone under the radar, that one. It's not too far out from launch, actually. Hope that game gets something, maybe at the State of Play with the Ghost of Yotai presentation happening this month. Tox, you're very curious to see how PSSR looks with the Sucker Punch engine. What I'm excited to, and we'll talk about this later, but what I'm looking forward to is the timing of when this launches, with Grand Theft Auto 6 coming out in May 2026, supposedly, if it doesn't get pushed back. We could be seeing something there that Sony's trying to push in order to boost how GTA 6 looks. I don't know, but fascinating talking about this subject. Miguel, you're saying you have to see a Japanese guy talking about Yotai trailer. I guess they're getting very excited, right, about Yotai. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Noble84, Ghost of Yotai, you're going to give it a chance. You can't judge a book from its cover, right? Well, I don't think... Well, I know the kind of people who are judging Yotai, and I have no time for that kind of person. That kind of person who judges a game and says, nah, shite, or it's woke, or whatever, any of those kind of nonsense kind of thoughts, I ain't got time for it. Ghost of Yotai is going to be superb. You know, a lot of people go to the movies, listen to music and all that. You don't automatically look at where the person's come from, what their background is, and all that kind of stuff, right? You enjoy it for what it is, and you move on to something else. If you want to play it, play it. If you don't, move on. That's all I'm interested in. And from what I've seen, Yotai looks fantastic. And I agree. Give it a chance. Give it a try. Play it. You'll enjoy it, man. If you haven't played Ghost of Tsushima, Noble, if you haven't played Ghost of Tsushima, play that first, right? And then go into Ghost of Yotai. Corey is saying, for reference, 9,000 people is more than the entirety of Nintendo first-party staff. Yeah, it's crazy. That's the third round of layoffs. They did, I can't remember the exact date when they started now. But it's 18 months of layoffs. It's ridiculous the amount of people that have left Microsoft. And we'll talk about that because right after the layoffs, literally the next day or 2 days later, they're talking about how we can adopt and use AI in our studios for game development. It's shocking how it's all kind of come out now in these reports, but we will go into that. Toxie saying it's a combination of all the issues with Xbox. Yeah, Game Pass greed and incompetence, you're saying, Petrov. Raz, you're saying, I need to ask you fellas that are playing DS2. Am I playing the first one? I've been reading reports about consoles overheating, internal fans getting loud, frame rates dropping or freezing. You know what, Raz? I've not seen any of that. I've not witnessed any of it. I don't know if anyone in the chat has had issues with overheating and that kind of nonsense. I haven't had any of that. Stephen, you're saying it'll be interesting to see how many Helldivers 2 sells on Xbox as it's not on Game Pass. Exactly. Yeah, that's one of the comments I'm going to talk about with the first topic. I think it's an important one too. Petrov, you're saying you're okay about Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox, but not single player or first party games. Toxie saying PSSR 2.0 on GTA 6 confirmed. Right, let's get into the first article then. Let's start with the first topic here. So we're looking at Helldivers, of course, and it was announced on a couple of days ago that Helldivers 2 is coming over to Xbox consoles. So you know the drill now, guys. We look at the source material. Obviously, this is common knowledge. Everyone's talking about it. It's on every gaming site. So I've taken it from, what is this, Video Game Chronicle. I could have gone to any PlayStation Universe or Push Square or VGC or any of them. So let's start with this one. So pretty short article, but PlayStation's Helldivers 2 is officially coming to Xbox consoles next month. This the online co-op shooter, which was released on PlayStation 5 and PC last year, will come to Xbox Series X and S on August the 26th. So it is the same day as Gears of War coming to PlayStation. And that was announced on Thursday. So the game will feature a cross-platform play with users on both PlayStation and PC. Both the standard version of the game and the Super Citizen edition of the game are now available for pre-order on Xbox. I wonder if we get visibility of those pre-order numbers. I wonder if we can get to see that. So it says here, we know gamers have been asking for this for some time, and we're so excited to bring more Helldivers into our game, said the game director, Mikael Eriksson. We have so much more in store for the future months and years, and the more players we have, the more stories we can tell. The fight for Super Earth has only just begun. So, Helldivers 2 was Sony's biggest hit of last year, becoming PlayStation's fastest selling game launch ever, with sales far exceeding expectations at 12 million copies sold across PC and PlayStation 5 in its first 12 weeks. Wow, 1 million a week. As part of its attempts to create more popular live service games, Sony is increasingly launching its online titles, such as the upcoming Marathon, across multiple console platforms. However, the company has indicated that its single-player games will remain exclusive to PlayStation consoles, with later PC ports to follow. Following the game's launch success, Helldivers 2 director Johan Palstedt revealed that he'd taken an extended break from the game development before the studio works on its next project. Earlier this year, Palstedt said he was already planning Arrowhead's next game, telling players that he was working on the high concept and inviting speculation on what it could be. Arrowhead has continued to update Helldivers 2 since launch, and Palstedt has even suggested it will work on the game until it effectively becomes Helldivers 3. Okay, so here we go. I forgot to do that on the last podcast. So, Helldivers 2 officially coming to Xbox, confirmed for August the 26th. Now, on the poll, the vast majority of people, I think it was 80%, 83% of people said that's a good thing. Sony did the right thing by releasing it on Xbox. What are you guys saying? Russell, you're saying only on PlayStation, 2009 to 2020. Who's surprised by this? I don't think this. If there's anyone out there who's shocked and surprised, honestly, this shouldn't be a surprise. This should not come as a surprise. Think back to the strategy that PlayStation had, right? They had, I don't know how many it was, 12 live service games that they were planning to sign off. And they've all failed, apart from one. Helldivers. That's the only game that's successful. And the plan was, when we have a live service game that's successful, we'll launch it everywhere. That was the plan, right? So my thoughts on this is that nothing has changed, right? The PlayStation strategy of taking its live service games to other platforms hasn't changed, has it? What do you reckon? I guess where the uproar comes from is certain people in the gaming media, or certain PlayStation influencers, maybe Xbox influencers, loads of fanboys from both sides are making a bigger deal of this than it really is. At the heart of this move is a game that's been out for, 18 months? Something like that, 16, 18 months. It's a live service game already available on PlayStation and PC. And we know that these kind of games, these online games, live service, multiplayer games, they need multiple players always to keep the game alive. right? They need these kind of games, and they need the people who play these games to buy microtransactions. They need to buy cosmetic skins and stuff like that, and future DLCs. So to take this game and place it into multiple platforms makes perfect sense. It's a pretty logical reason why Sony's decided to do it. I guess the question mark is the timing feels a little bit weird, right? The timing's it's a bit. Hang on a sec, my camera's frozen. I don't know why my camera's frozen. Hang on a sec, guys. There you go. You get to see my ugly face now. So let's go back. Right. Yeah, the timing just feels a bit weird. Thanks, Petrov. Cheers, buddy. I'm not sure why the camera's froze. I was doing a bit of a mess about with the system earlier. Maybe that was part of it. I'll have to keep an eye on that. So the timing of this game going to Xbox is a little bit weird. I mean, if it was going to Xbox anyway, if that was the plan, that it goes to Xbox, then why not just launch it on Xbox from the start? Why not let the game come out with an even bigger bang than it already has? Why hold off from releasing it on Xbox when it launched? That's the bit I don't quite get. Why not even release it on Nintendo? Why not? Right? Just do it. If that was the plan, to have the game everywhere. Sony and Arrowhead want more gamers, so launch the game everywhere. Do what they're doing with Destiny. It's pretty much everywhere, right? Do the same thing and release this game on every platform. I mean, what's not clear is, was this always the plan? Was Sony planning to release Helldivers onto Xbox anyway, or is this something new? They already said Marathon is coming out and it's going everywhere when it launches. So do the same with Helldivers when it launched. I get why you would want to keep, a couple of you have already mentioned it in the chat. I understand why you'd want to keep single player games on PlayStation, right? I get why you want to keep them locked to the platform, right? Exclusivity drives people to the platform. We know that. That's a proven fact. But why a live service game? That doesn't make sense. From Sony's perspective, it makes sense. Take this game, put it everywhere. What I don't get, though, is people that are now saying, I've seen it everywhere, full slate. It's all coming to Xbox. Sony's taking their games to Xbox. Spider-Man's next. I mean, it's ridiculous. This is a live service game. I mean, how dumb do you have to be to believe everything's coming to every platform? Why would Sony do that? Are you not seeing what's happening right now on Xbox? Right in front of our very eyes, in real time, the Xbox platform is being ripped apart, piece by piece. Sony's not going to take their biggest USP of having console exclusive games, that's single player games, and drop them onto Xbox. Come on, seriously. We know better than that, don't we? We know better than that. Russell is saying PlayStation pundits have been misleading their audience for years while simultaneously playing on PC. I don't know. Who are the PlayStation pundits that you're referring to, Russell? So Sony's already committed to keeping their single player games exclusive to the PlayStation console when they launch. After a period of time, some of those games will go to PC. And then there's the other question. I think, Stephen, you asked it on the in the chat. Sony bringing Helldivers 2 to Xbox, but it's not dropping into Game Pass. Therefore, the question is, will it sell? Will it sell? Miguel saying Destiny mobile game, 5 million pre-subs. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that a couple of days ago. There's definitely an audience for mobile gaming. It's not a place I want to play, but there's definitely an audience who enjoy mobile gaming. Tox is saying Xbox went full third-party publisher and now they're getting third-party hardware. That's exactly what's happening. Getting rid of manufacturing at Xbox. Petrov, you're saying 1 million units. Are you saying 1 million units, Petrov? 1 million units of Helldivers going to be sold on Game Pass. GLP Gamer, you're saying single player games need to be exclusive. Games as a service games need to be multi-plat. 100% agree. 100% agree. So are Xbox gamers actually going to buy this game? Now, the game is not, and I think it was priced at £40 when it came out originally. It's still the same price, but you're getting all the extra DLCs and all the other bits that have launched since. So it's not a typically priced game at £70 or $70. It's $40 when it comes to the Xbox platform, which is a fairly decent price if you haven't played it before. Another thing to mention, I think someone mentioned it in the chat, is that, sorry, not in the chat, in the comments, somebody mentioned this a couple of days ago, that a lot of players have already played this game on PC. So if you game on Xbox and you game on PC, then you're probably not going to buy it because you've already played it on PC. So back to the original question, how many gamers on Xbox will actually buy Helldivers 2? You guys talking about cleaning consoles? So I've got it down as 100,000 units of this game that will sell, or near about that kind of figure, 100,000 units. I might be wrong, but I just don't see a lot of people buying the game on Xbox. For the best part of a decade, right, you've been conditioned into expecting games day and date for free. Although we know technically you're still paying for a Game Pass subscription, but psychologically, you've already made up your mind. If I'm paying X amount per month, I'm not going to be buying any more games and therefore not spending any more money. That's the problem. You've already outlined how much you're going to spend each month through your Game Pass subscription. And I mean, how much is Game Pass? What is it? 15 quid a month or something, right? So in your mind, you've already outlaid 15, 20 quid, whatever it is. And I'm not buying any more games. The mentality of the vast majority of those gamers is that, like it or not, the numbers don't lie. So I'm fascinated to see what the sales numbers are going to be like for Helldivers 2. And why now? Why is now the right time to release the game into Xbox? Why not 6 months ago? Why not a year ago? Why not on launch? Why now? So I'm interested to know why specifically now. Miguel saying 1 million copies of Helldivers 2 on Xbox. Man, if they hit 1 million, that's massive. That's a massive investment. Sony's done well if they sell 1 million units on Xbox. GLP saying, is there any gamers left on Xbox? Yeah. What's the, is it 35 million Game Pass subscribers? I'm pretty sure it's 35 million. Raz, you're saying Xbox gamers are conditioned to expect everything on Game Pass, so probably won't sell. And that's the thing, isn't it? Is when you've already psychologically been told you're going to get games going into Game Pass day and date, your mentality changes, your mindset changes. I'm going to outlay 15, 20 quid a month on this service, and I'm not paying for my games. Unless it's something spectacular, which only comes out once every 10 years, like a GTA. Right, that will be the exception. Russell is saying Game Pass ruined physical retail, less competition. It has. There's not many physical games that come out on Xbox, is there? It's mainly all digital. I think whatever Sony sells on Xbox for Helldivers 2, it'll probably cover the cost of paying Nixxes Studios to port it over to Xbox. Right? Whatever that cost is for that studio. I think that's about it. I don't think it's going to sell. I mean, to be fair to Arrowhead, they have consistently been updating this game, introducing new content, new enemies, new weapons, and they've got, like they said in that report, a lot more to add to the game over the next few months and years ahead. And maybe Sony's thinking, look, I've mentioned this on a previous podcast. Maybe Sony's thinking, look, we have all these failed live service games. None of it's worked. All these games that we've been telling our first party studios to make over the last 3, 4, 5 years, right? Nothing's worked. We've wasted all that time and all that money. We've now got Marathon in limbo. We've got Fair Games in limbo. No one's heard anything about the Horizon online live service game. That's gone quiet, hasn't it? So maybe Sony's thinking, look, we've got all these failed live service games, and yet right under our nose is the most successful live service game we have ever had. Helldivers is knocking it out the park. We need to take this to Xbox, then release it on Nintendo next year. We have Arrowhead making content for the next few years. If we get all platforms to engage with this game, this could be our cash cow. Maybe Sony saw the light. Maybe they saw the dollar signs. Maybe that's why they've decided to release the game now. Who knows, right? Toxie saying, you're thinking the idea has come from Arrowhead to expand their players, and they pitched it to Sony and they agreed? Yeah, quite possibly. We know Arrowhead have said it a few times, and there was I'm sure it was a few months back after the game had come out. There was something about Xbox, the Xbox fan base and the Xbox leadership wanted the game on there, and Arrowhead said, look, if Sony will agree to it, then we'll do it, or if you guys can get talking, we're happy for it. So we know Arrowhead wanted to do it. And like I said, it's a live service game. These games need players, right? What they can't have is players kind of dwindling down on the service. They've got to keep putting out content. That's the nature of live service games. You've got to keep new stuff, being available on the game. But you also need more players to play it all the time. So maybe it was Arrowhead that instigated it. Miguel saying, I saw a news article this week. If Game Pass doesn't increase subs by 2027, Satya Nadella will sell Xbox. I'll have to look into that, buddy. It's not the first time I've heard rumours of Xbox's exit by 2027. Dox is saying Sony doesn't own Arrowhead, and Arrowhead has been wanting to detach from Sony. No, Sony doesn't own Arrowhead. No, we had this episode 1 or episode 2. We talked about, isn't it? Tencent have got their claws in them, haven't they? Tencent have acquired shares in Arrowhead, and Tencent seem to be everywhere. And that's not a knock on Tencent, but missed opportunity, I think, from Sony's perspective. But yeah, Arrowhead want to take their game everywhere, their biggest game ever, and they've agreed with Sony to release it on Xbox. Yeah, Russell is saying they cancelled Days Gone 2 for live service. Yeah, Sony Ben were working on a live service game which got ditched. They could have been working on Days Gone 2. I think overall, the consensus seems to be it's fine, isn't it? It's a live service game. It's an online game. It's a multiplayer game. Just put it everywhere and move on. I think that seems to be pretty much the consensus. I mean, the bottom line is we don't know why Sony decided now specifically. It could have been Arrowhead coming to them. Sony could have looked at the numbers and thought, you know what, let's exploit this game and let's put it everywhere. It is live service, and we know Sony's strategy of taking live service games to multiple platforms is the plan, while single player games will remain exclusive to the console for now. Sony owns the IP for Helldivers. I just think Sony's had lots of problems with making live service games. I think that's their main situation here is take the game, get it onto every platform. It'll be out on Nintendo soon as well. Corey's saying you've got a different view. We know Arrowhead is looking to make a new game that will be multi-platform. We know that Arrowhead doesn't own the Helldivers IP. Sony does. I think Sony is looking... I'll let you finish your point. Personally, I think it's a good move. I don't see there being... I don't see this as a negative from a PlayStation or a Sony perspective. Yeah, Marathon's going everywhere. Destiny's already everywhere. MLB The Show is everywhere, right? Corey saying, you think Sony's looking to get the most of the IP while they still have a developer, because when Arrowhead doesn't move one, they won't be working on the game anymore. I wonder if Sony could have done a deal then, because if the game could have dropped into Game Pass, we know Microsoft will do deals, right? They pay developers X amount of money to drop your game into Game Pass. Would that have been more cost effective for Sony? Because they still had to port this game over. Nixxes Studios ported the game over to Xbox, right? I think it'll all go down to how many people have pre-ordered the game, how many people will buy the game. The jury's out. Tox is saying Sony wants to keep Arrowhead happy. Maybe Sony wants to keep them around. Maybe, but Arrowhead's next project is they're going it alone, aren't they? They're going it independent on their next multiplayer game. I think Sony's got what they wanted from Arrowhead. They've got a game, a multiplayer game. It's a live service. Maybe they can use that kind of model for other games if they're planning on making more live service games, which they probably will. There's a lot. I think there's more to this than meets the eye, but at the end of the day, it's a live service game, and we know Sony's strategy on live service. Yeah, the whole PSN debacle was just terrible. It was just it brought the worst out of everybody on every platform. It got everyone talking. But Sony's now dropped a lot of their regional requirements for PSN. I don't know if that means people who previously purchased Helldivers can go back and play it. But I know they've kind of pulled back on some of their restrictions on the PSN requirement. No, you're right, Corey. A flat one-time amount is never going to match what they could make, but it's a big if, isn't it? And we've seen what was the recent release, the Final Fantasy 16 game that came out on Xbox. It nothing, 22,000 units or something silly like that. I mean, is that really going to make Sony? Is that going to cover the cost of porting it over to Xbox? I don't know. But here's the thing, right? Xbox has a big fan base of gamers who like shooters and online games, right? Maybe this is the kind of game people will get behind. Everyone knows that Helldivers is a great game. If you enjoy live service games, Helldivers is a good game. It's a great game. I've only played it a handful of times. I don't like online games generally, but it's okay. So if you're into live service games, multiplayer games, this might be what you're looking for on Xbox. And 40 quid's it's not bad, is it? Price point wise. Plus you're getting all the content that's come out over the last 18 months, and there's going to be more coming out over the next couple of years as well. Russell is saying live service is a cancer to the gaming. They should be in jail for addiction. Yeah, I don't like live service. Anyway, guys, let's move on. Let's move on to topic number 2. Toxie saying Arrowhead also did very bad things when they started to balance the game. Then after so much backlash, Arrowhead returned the game to its original day one version. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. As I've only been keeping an eye on it from the outside. But peaceful detachment. Let's move on, guys. Let's dive into the next topic. I'll set this up. So, Corey is saying, remember Helldivers 2 is already extremely profitable, hundreds of time more profitable than what it cost to make and to port. That is true. It's not costing Sony much to get it over to Xbox. It's not costing Sony much to get it to Xbox. but it's still going to cost something, isn't it? And you know what Sony's like? They want that money back. They want that return on investment, whatever it's cost to take over to Xbox. Let's see what happens over the next few days. I mean, it's only coming out in August, right? August 26th. So we're not going to have to wait too long for this game to come out. So, guys, we're talking about PSSR. So, Sony has come out and they've reiterated that PSSR is coming out 2026 and it's going to be improved. It's going to be bigger than what it is now. And according to these reports, there's going to be a big improvement. And so I've got this two brief articles I'll quickly go over. So this one's from Push Square. Again, could have gone to lots of different sites. I'll pick this one. PlayStation console architect Mark Cerny has reiterated Sony's plan to deliver a substantial PlayStation 5 Pro visuals upgrade at some point next year. It's important to remember that because I'm going to talk about that. A substantial PS5 Pro visual upgrade. The enhancement would come by way of an overhaul to the PSSR system, which will be much improved through Sony's collaboration with AMD, where it's researching the technology behind machine learning. As a result of this, Cerny states the full fat version of PSSR will go live in 2026 as part of an interview with Tom's Guide. PSSR, or PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, is an upscaling technology similar to NVIDIA's DLSS feature that works to enhance picture quality and displays games at a higher resolution. This lets teams utilize the PlayStation 5 Pro's extra power in other areas, leaving PSSR to do the heavy lifting for visual resolution. So now, as a method of its AMD collaboration, Sony has discovered an improved method of delivering PSSR, which is an easy drop-in replacement that's designed to be straightforward for developers to make use of. This upscaling algorithm took around 9 months to create, which is a much quicker result than Mark Cerny expected to come out of Project Amethyst, which is the term given to this collaboration between PlayStation and AMD. The algorithm they come up with could be implemented on current generation hardware. He said, so the co-developed algorithm has already been released by AMD as part of FSR 4 on PC, and we're in the process of implementing it on PlayStation 5, and it will release next year on the PlayStation 5 Pro. The FSR 4 technology currently available on PC is a different algorithm to PSSR, but Cerny stresses that what PlayStation 5 Pro will receive is still every bit as good as it. It's not a cut down version of the algorithm, it's the full fat version of the co-developed super resolution that will be releasing on the PlayStation 5 Pro. So, and then just to follow up on that, Mark Cerny says PlayStation 5 Pro will get its major replacement for the current PSSR upscaler next year. So this one goes, earlier this year it was announced that Sony and AMD have partnered on the Project Amethyst initiative, which is focused on delivering a version of FSR 4, which is AMD's equivalent of NVIDIA's DLSS tech, to the PlayStation 5 Pro. This technology will be similar to Sony's own PSSR tech, which is a machine learning based upscaler but promises improved results. In an interview with Tom's Guide, Cerny discussed the upcoming tech, which he called a drop-in replacement for the current PSSR. According to Cerny, he expected the advancement in technology to take years to come to fruition, but due to the collaboration between the two companies, they've managed to develop a substantial improved upscaling algorithm in just a few years and expect to release it publicly in 2026. It's not a cut down of the original algorithm, he explained. It's the full fat version of the co-developed super resolution that will be releasing on the PlayStation 5 Pro. Cerny also discussed Sony's ongoing relationship with AMD, which has seen both companies collaborate on advancements in graphical technology. According to Cerny, the two companies are closer now than they were during the development of the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 5 Pro. Mark uses a better company Mark makes us a better company. AMD's Jack Hunya said, we push each other. This is not for proprietary technology, Cerny explained. This is really trying to move the industry forward. Obviously, we want to use these technologies on our consoles, but these technologies are available to any AMD customers freely. So there's the two articles I wanted to have a quick look at. And let's set that up. Okay. So guys, what are your thoughts on this? What do you make of the PSSR update or upgrade, which will be launching in 2026? Tox, 100% FSR4, here we go. Corey is saying, I love how AMD has outright said that FSR4 is based on PSSR, yet the media and social media have gone out of their way to try to make it seem like AMD came up with FSR4 all by themselves and PSSR is a copy or cut down version of it, not the other way around. Yeah, you mentioned it earlier. You know, the internet and what we see is just a small percentage of things that just get distorted. It's people just putting their own twist on it. You've got multiple reports. They're all very similar. And I've picked two there, one from Push Square and one from VGC. They say very similar things, that they're working together. AMD and Sony are working together, working with Mark Cerny and the engineers, and they've got a roadmap. They know what they want the PlayStation 6 to do. But there are going to be elements that they can incorporate now on PlayStation 5 Pro, and they can continue to upgrade and update that. And by the time PlayStation 6 launches, we could be at version 3, version 4, version 5, who knows? But it will be so far more advanced. But it is a collaboration between Sony and AMD. It's not a stripped down version of FSR4. It's not a stripped down version of PSSR. The two integrate. They're learning off each other. They're using information from PlayStation to help develop and support FSR, and vice versa with PSSR. GLP Gamer, you're saying FSR4 sounds good. By the feels of it, they get rid of PSSR from PS6 and just use FSR4. I think I don't know if they'll get rid of PSSR. I think PSSR will be the PlayStation version of FSR4, and it will have custom elements for consoles. And I think it's just purely down to how PCs are built and the graphical capabilities of PC. I'm not sure if you can have just FSR4 on PlayStation 6. I might be wrong. Like I said, I'm not a tech guy. You know, I'm going off reports here for what people are saying. Hello, Moko. How you doing, buddy? So, look, let me give you my take on this, and we can carry on the conversation. I mean, one of the questions I have to ask is, are we going to see a bigger leap in PS5 Pro graphics? Are we going to see an improvement in graphics? Or is this laying the foundation for the PS6? And I say this because the article referenced improvements in visual quality. So my take on this is that if you remember when the PlayStation 5 Pro first came out, there were lots of games that supposedly supported the PS5 Pro. And they did. Many games did. Those games were enhanced. They had better frame rates, much improved stability, and they offered elements of ray tracing, and it felt smoother, felt more crisp. But many studios struggled to iron out some of the problems. Partially it was down to not having enough time to spend developing for the Pro. If you remember when the Pro launched, not every game was ready at launch. Some games dropped online, or the enhancements a few months later, and then some came a few months later. Sometimes it felt like it was a bit of an afterthought. Some games wanted this kind of Pro patch. Yeah, we're Pro enhanced, but it never really went the full hog, right? Some studios had issues that appeared. It was something to do with the files and how it was installed or developed during the development phases. and how the PlayStation 5 Pro recalled or accessed that information. And it did lead to some problems with some of the games. The one I remember particularly was Silent Hill 2. It had issues on the PlayStation 5 Pro that were worse than the base PlayStation 5. I still don't think they fixed that. So the fact that this new PSSR 2.0, which will go live in 2026, is a more straightforward way of allowing developers to utilize the PSSR technology, that's for me, that's fantastic. That's what we want to see. Easier adoption of how to use the technology. So what we should be seeing in 2026 onwards, or whenever this update goes live, is that games are easier to enhance for. There's less teething issues. Don't get me wrong, there's always going to be development issues, always. That's just the nature of the beast. But overall, the vast number of games and development teams working on their games to have their games enhanced for PlayStation 5 Pro will be far easier and more efficient than the PSSR version 1. Petrov, you're saying, I hope they get better. Halamoka, you're saying both are a bit different in utilizing them. Devs can choose. Remember, PSSR 2.0 will be even greater. It will be even greater. Tox, you're saying by what other people are saying about FSR 4, I think it's going to be a noticeable leap. I hope so. I hope so. One of the things I want to see is how much of a bigger improvement is it on the current PSSR. I'm fascinated to see what the differences are going to be. And 2026, you know, depending on when it comes out, we're talking a few months' time. Especially if they're aiming to have it ready before GTA 6 comes out. Corey's saying Sony's not going to get rid of PSSR. It's the custom version of the technology of FSR 4. Sony will always want technology that give their hardware an advantage. FSR 4 is great for PC, but its design is to run across a multitude of hardware configurations. PS consoles only have to make a custom version that works specifically for their hardware. That's beautifully put, actually. Yeah, you put that very well. PSSR is the kind of the console version, really, if you like, custom built or custom designed for PlayStation consoles. Hello, Moki, saying PSSR will expand and develop even more and advance the technology the more it is used and understood. Correct? Yes, it will. Tox is saying PSSR is a PlayStation registered mark. It is. It's PlayStation's own proprietary technology. So for me, it's great that these developers and these development teams are going to have access to PSSR. I'm calling it 2.0 because that's what it is, right? It's a second version, second iteration, the second commercial iteration. And it's going to make developing games, or enhancing games rather, easier for the pro. So it's also laying down the foundations, let's not forget, for the developers to get more familiar with it, get used to the technology in a more efficient way, which can only be a good thing for the PlayStation 6. Because next up is the additional benefits that we're supposedly going to see in games, thanks to PSSR 2.0. So according to those articles, PSSR version that we're going to see will be they refer it to the fat version, both of these articles, right? I don't know what that means, the full version, because what that implies, what they're saying, the implication is next year we're going to get the full version. That means right now what we have on PlayStation 5 Pro is not the full version. We have a scaled back version of PSSR right now on our PS5 Pro. So what the PlayStation 5 Pro is capable of doing right now is not even half of what it can do next year, which is a good thing. It's an exciting thing, isn't it? Once this new update kicks in next year, it will be able to deliver even more. So we should be expecting a full fat version of the co-developed super resolution on PSSR on the Pro in 2026. So Corey is saying PSSR is a bit like DLSS in that DLSS is specific to NVIDIA hardware. PSSR is specific to PlayStation consoles. The fact that it will be a part of PlayStation 6 means that any advancements that are made with the PlayStation 5 Pro can be carried over to the PS6 and beyond, which is fantastic, which is what we want, right? We want the developers right now to be using the technology. So when PlayStation 6 kicks in, there's no there's no learning curve for them, right? They're already used to using this technology thanks to the PlayStation 5 Pro. Halamoka, you're saying, I think the collaboration between Sony and AMD are going to be even stronger and help each other develop PSSR and FSR 4. With the combined power, they will rival DLSS and may go even further than anything else. Well, what we have to remember, right, is FSR 4 and DLSS has been out for a while, right? They are market leaders on PC for what they do in terms of the tech, but they have been out for a while. PSSR has only been out commercially since the PlayStation 5 come out, right? So this is baby phases at the minute for PlayStation and their PSSR technology, their upscaling technology. You know, give them 5, 6, 7, 8 years using this tech. Who knows where they could be? The rate at which AI advances and moves forward, the capabilities of AI and how they can implement AI within this technology is phenomenal. It's going to impact the way all their games are designed going forward if they use it properly, especially the first party studios. So it's a fascinating space to watch. Tox is saying PS6 will have PSSR 4.0. So if version 2.0 is coming out in 2026, and it's taken a couple of years, right? 2028 will be version 3.0. So if PlayStation 6 launches in 2028, it'll be launching with PSSR 3.0. That's 2028, 2030. I mean, I don't know if these things improve every year. I'm just going off what we've got. The PlayStation 6 Pro. Can't believe we're talking about the PlayStation 6 Pro. That's probably going to have version 4, I think. But exciting either way. Halamoko, Raz, you're saying PSSR 2.0, Resident Evil 9, GTA 6. It's going to be beautiful. It certainly is, buddy. It certainly is. And if I'm looking forward to Battlefield 6. You know, playing that destructible environments on the PlayStation 5 Pro with PSSR 2.0. That's going to be fantastic. Alamoko, to me, it seems DLSS is a bit stuck in its technology. Now they are fake boosting your games with that FPS frame gen. Yeah, I'm not, to be honest, I'm not that familiar with how FSR 4 and DLSS work on PC. I don't play enough PC games to really, I don't have the experience to say, this is how it works. This is how good it is. I can only go off reports and what, you know, people tell me in the chat, what you guys say in the comments. I have a lot of PC gamers who watch the content on the channel. They always correct me if I'm wrong. They always kind of chip in with their thoughts. You know, I welcome your feedback on PC specs and how the technologies on PC are improving and performing. But I don't, you know, I'm certainly not a techie. I'm certainly no expert in DLSS or FSR4. So I don't know how these technologies compare to each other. I just know that when people talk about upscaling technology, most people talk about DLSS or FSR4. When it comes to PC, they're the two main ones, right? And if PSSR, where it is now, I said in its kind of infancy, if they're already talking about this being as good as FSR4 on PC, but for console versions, then we're heading in the right direction for consoles. Tox is saying FSR4 quality is now more comparable to DLSS than ever. Corey saying the current version of PSSR is not scaled back. It's version 1 of the technology. FSR4 is the upgrade that works across all platforms. Sony takes that upgrade and makes it specific to PS5 Pro. I hope so. I hope that's right. I mean, the way they're talking about PSSR 2.0, and they keep referencing the full fat version as if to imply we haven't got the full fat version now. So I'm just going off what they're saying about that. Either way, very excited about PSSR 2.0. And the one thing I would like to add is that leaning towards the power and capabilities of what the PlayStation 6 can do, I want to just focus on the PS5 Pro, because the PS5 Pro or the PlayStation 5 console is still restricted by, I say restricted, it's got a Zen 2 CPU, right? Built specifically for PlayStation, but the Pro can achieve around 3.7 gigahertz, give or take, at slightly more than the base PS5. Now, and I've only read this from reports that the graphical capabilities of the PlayStation 5 is somewhere between an AMD RX 660 XT or the NVIDIA RTX 2070. You guys who play PC games and use graphics card can correct me if I'm wrong or right. So the PlayStation 5 graphics capability is somewhere between the AMD RX 660 or the NVIDIA RTX 2070, right? I'm only basing this off the PS5 Pro GPU clock speeds, compute units, architecture, and ray tracing. So I'm thinking about PSSR 2.0. When that kicks in, I understand how it's going to improve the processes. I understand how it's going to improve kind of upscaling, right? It's going to take tasks away from certain areas to allow the console to focus in other areas of the game, right? Speed up things, make improvements with upscaling technology. But apart from kind of the upscaling, it's not going to improve the graphics, is it? The graphics aren't going to increase. Surely that's something further down the line for PlayStation 6, right? So I'm not sure how that process works. I'm not saying it's not possible, but in terms of pure graphical improvement, again, I'm not a techie. I understand how some of the core processes can improve with PSSR 2. I know how the improvements in PSSR tech and AI upscaling is going to work. It will take tasks away from areas of the CPU and the GPU, and it will allow the console to focus on other tasks. I get that. But how is it going to improve graphics? I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure. But it's going to allow the devs to learn more about how the technology works, better improve the game design, and then we're going to see a better version on the PlayStation 6. Maybe PSR 3.0. A GLP gamer, you're saying, they're saying we'll get FSR 4 full fat version, same as PC, rather than a cut down version for console. That's the way. That's the way I understood it. I understood it as we're going to get whatever FSR 4 can do. We're going to get that, but a custom PlayStation 5 Pro version made specifically for the PlayStation 5. So we're going to get the same thing, but designed slightly differently to cater for a console. Essentially, is how I interpret that. I don't think you're wrong. I've interpreted it the same way. Holomoka, you're saying the one game I know on PlayStation 5 that uses that frame gen to get 60 FPS is Black Myth Wukong. King's Blood, it just works. So Tox, you're saying Unreal Engine 5 at 1440p upscale to 4K at a locked 60 frames per second is their goal. Well, if they can deliver that, that's on the PlayStation 5 Pro. Then my understanding is correct. It's not the actual graphics. It's freeing up elements of the console to allow them to hit 60 frames per second whilst delivering an output that looks like 4K. So it might not necessarily be native 4K, right? It'll be 1440p or something like that, upscaled to 4K, locked at 60 frames per second using Unreal Engine or first-party studio engine like the Decima engine. Maybe it could also help with displaying ray tracing as well at 4K, upscaled 4K, 60 frames per second. Maybe that's what they're aiming for with the PSSR 2.0. Corey, you're saying greater AI algorithms allow devs to devote graphics resources towards greater graphics enhancements without having to focus on resolution and frame rates because game is internally running lower. That's true. That is true. I'm fascinated. You know what? I would love another Mark Cerny presentation on PSSR upscaling technology 2.0. I'd love one of them takeaways so we can take it away and dissect it. And Corey is saying resolution, it is easier to hit 60 frames per second and beyond without needing to devote resources towards 4K or advanced lighting. So maybe it's going to help those areas, and maybe the next version of PSSR will allow the console to devote resources, not time, devote the resources on those areas to help the game output a lower resolution at 4K, but whilst keeping it locked at 60 frames if that's the intention. But I do need to understand how this is going to work. I mean, Mark Cerny's gone out to say that when this update kicks in for the PS5 Pro, it's going to be every bit as good as FSR 4 technology, not a cut down version, which sounds really promising to me. So I'm fascinated to know more about this technology that they're talking about. Kingsbury said Mark Cerny needs an interpreter. Mark Cerny, man, is a legend. It's a legend. So yeah, very excited about this talk about PSSR tech, right? If it's going to make the games, to be honest, I've played a number of games that look and run buttery smooth on the PlayStation 5 Pro. So if this is going to make that experience even better, that's a good thing, right? And you know, the PS5 Pro, the gift that keeps on giving, you don't have to do anything. You're not paying anything extra for it. It's just going to be an update, and you're going to see loads of improvements next year. And God knows what it's going to do to games like GTA 6 when GTA 6 come out with a PS5 Pro GTA 6 bundle. Can you imagine that? Playing a game that maybe it's upscaled to 4K, but it's 4K 60 frames per second locked on the PlayStation 5 Pro. Maybe the only console experience that can deliver that. You imagine that? The scalpers are going to take all of them. Tox is saying Mark Cerny puts you to sleep. I think with Mark Cerny's presentations, he is very techy. You know what he's like. And I've worked. I speak to a lot of engineers, electronic engineers, software engineers, embedded engineers, right? They are fantastic, but they're very, very precise in what they say and how they say. They're very to the point. And if you're not on the right wavelength, it just goes over your head. It really does. And I think Mark Cerny's like that. He's such a high thinker, and not everyone is on that level. And I'm not on that level. But I'd love to see his presentation on the PSSR 2.0 and how it's going to make games better. Hopefully they show us proper examples, full screen rather than a small image like they did last time comparing Ratchet and Clank. Full screen image comparisons, gameplay comparisons too, and we can dissect that then going forward. Corey, you're saying Alan Wake 2 using DLSS is internally 960 but allows PC to run the game with full ray tracing and output resolution is 1440p. Depending on your CPU and how powerful your GPU is, you can get 120 FPS. If you try to do that with a native rendering, the 4090 and the 5090 would be a bit over 55ish. Wow. Well, here's the thing: if we cannot tell whether the image is internally 960 or 1080p or 1440p internally, if we cannot tell that, because what we're looking at is an AI enhanced upscaled resolution to 4K. Because let's be honest, most people when they play games at home, we don't sit there and use Digital Foundry's technology to analyze frame rates, right? We just put the game in and play. And if it runs smooth and it looks fantastic, we have a great time. Let's be honest, right? That's how I play. Most people are going to be like that. So if a game looks 4K, and you're saying here, 120 frames per second or even 60 frames, I'll take 60, right? The game looks 4K, runs at 60 frames per second minimum, locked, should we say. And you're getting ray tracing. You're getting all the bells and whistles. That's what we've been asking for, isn't it? We've been asking for that for years. Maybe then they'll do a Bloodborne 60 frames per second patch for us. Tox is saying a locked 60 is more attainable when the internal resolution is 1440p upscale to 4K. I'd take that. I don't think a lot of people will be able to tell the difference between a 1440p upscaled image to 4K versus a real 4K image. I don't think there's going to be much difference, right? Tox, you consult with Digital Foundry. Well, they are the tech experts. They are the tech experts, right? Okay, the next topic's going to be interesting. This is going to be an interesting discussion. So let's strap ourselves down for this one. That's is there a? I don't think. Yeah, there is a. Okay, there's a website here to look at as well. So let's get that. I don't know what I've just clicked on. Let's get this opened up. Let's move on. I don't know what's happening with the video here. It's just, it doesn't stay to that size. It just keeps jumping. That will change in a minute. Okay, so let's dive into this difficult subject. So I'm taking this. This is WCCF Tech, okay? The Microsoft Xbox layoffs. Who's to blame? So Microsoft laid off, this time round, a minimum of 9,000 employees. Many right across the gaming division. Before I dive into this, I do this on the videos. That's 9,000 families that have been impacted by the layoff. So my heart goes out to everyone affected, and I hope they find something soon, because that's not, it's just not good, is it? It's just not good at all. But who's to blame? Whose fault is it? I mentioned at the start, is it the Xbox gamers for not buying games? Is it Game Pass for conditioning gamers to expect games for free? Satya Nadella and Phil Spencer for thinking they could do a Netflix for gaming with Game Pass? Was it down to the overspending on acquisitions? Was it down to the adoption of AI across Microsoft? Or is it a combination of everything? So we'll take a look at the article first, and then we'll dive into this topic in more detail. Right, so let's have a look at this then. So Microsoft laid off 9,000 employees across the entire company yesterday, with an unknown number of those cuts impacting the Xbox and gaming division. Part of these cuts are reportedly directly related to Microsoft's push into AI, and some of those impacted by the cuts are speaking out about how Microsoft is doing its damnedest to replace people with AI as fast as it can. You might think then that at least a day, possibly even a few days, Microsoft would have postponed any more pushing of its AI technology into the faces of developers, publicly or privately. No, not the case. It would seem, as Kotaku spotted, that Necrosoft Games director Brandon Sheffield shared the beginnings of an email he received from Microsoft and ID at Xbox, inviting him to a round table at Gamescom 2025, where Microsoft will be talking up its AI in our tools and processes to make game development and publishing experience more efficient. So this is the message that Brandon Sheffield received, and he's put it out on X saying, meanwhile, this email came from Microsoft this morning, and this was the morning when everyone got sacked. And he goes on to say, hello, we are excited to be heading to Gamescom. Excited. We're excited to be heading to Gamescom 2025 in Cologne, Germany again this year. If you will also be attending, we are offering an AI roundtable where you can provide us your feedback on how you'd like to see us use AI in our tools and processes to make the game development and publishing experience more efficient. And then below Sheffield's post, other developers shared their responses to getting the same invitation, with Toronto-based developer Benjamin Rivers saying, "Just got wrecked, mates." Sheffield agreed, "They really should." While reports of the total layoffs at Microsoft have the number at 9,000, the exact number of people impacted in the gaming division remains unclear at this time of writing. Meanwhile, these layoffs have left the talented workers and developers out of a job due to poor decisions made by a C-suite of executives who, for some reason, still have their jobs. Despite the fact that thousands of layoffs is a clear sign they messed up along the way and pushed out veteran developers who contain a wealth of knowledge that the AI tools Microsoft is pushing cannot hope to replace. This is just a shot in the dark, but it seems like decisions like that don't lead to wasting and mismanaging talent that have been in the industry for years. That would be more efficient route towards successful game development instead of using AI tools that have so far proven capable, costing a lot of money. Shocking. Absolute shocking, isn't it, really, guys? What are your thoughts? I mean, the way that message was worded to that chap, Sheffield, studio head. It's shocking, isn't it? So let me tell you my thoughts on this, because it's always a divisive subject, this, right, isn't it? It's always lots of people have their different opinions, but my personal thoughts on this is that this is a combination of all the points I mentioned at the start. It's a combination of everything. It's a combination of everything over the last few years coming together, and also a result of improved AI, which has led to us to where we are now. But there is a root cause. There is one thing. I blame all this on one thing, one aspect of the strategy. This is the one thing that I think it all boils down to. If you look at Game Pass specifically, this is, for me, is the catalyst, right? This, I believe, in its current setup is the root cause of all their problems. Not Game Pass as a subscription service. That is fine. I don't think Game Pass as a subscription service is a problem. Game Pass to go alongside first-party games is fine. But Game Pass, where every first-party game is released day and date, that is the root cause where everything starts. And it starts here. That decision to release first-party games into Game Pass day and date, that's where everything starts from, and it stems from there. And it snowballs. And it snowballs and snowballs and snowballs. And here we are. Petrov, you're blaming the ABK deal. Russell is saying Phil Spencer is a glorified toll booth operator, implemented online paywalls such as Game Pass. Tox, you're agreeing. Well, look, let's. I've thought about it. I've got some notes here. I've thought about this, and I want to break this down. GLP Gamer, you're saying Microsoft have lost it. They're losing trust in players, and they are 100%. 100%. So Game Pass was cooked up by Phil Spencer, maybe Satya Nadella as well. But Satya Nadella greenlit this idea from Phil Spencer. They wanted to create a Netflix of gaming for the gaming industry because they couldn't compete, right? After the Xbox One era, that kind of era, they couldn't compete. So they wanted to do something different. And their idea was a Netflix of gaming where gamers pay a monthly fee for pretty much unlimited games within the service. That was the plan. You can play any game you want in Game Pass, and we'll charge you a small fee each month. But straight away, that if you think that's going to save the platform, not focus on single player games, not focus on quality, but you're hanging your hat already. Day one, you're hanging your hat on Game Pass. That strategy's flawed. straight away. Phil Spencer and Nadella were comparing Game Pass to Netflix or music services like Spotify. People spend essentially hours, right? Binge watching movies and shows, podcasts and music. Hours, you can spend days on it, you can spend a week on it, right? But people can do that with movies. You can do that with movies and TV shows. You can have a movie on, like I do. I have a movie on or a show. I just walk about in the living room. I talk about with friends, family. I'm on the phone. I'm checking out YouTube. But I'm doing that while I'm watching the TV. It doesn't bother me. I just find a way of doing it. You can have movies and TV shows on, and you can do other things around the house. You can do that with podcasts and music, right? You can listen to them while you drive to work out in the gym. You can do stuff like that. I used to do, years ago, I used to have the radio on a Saturday in the UK, right? I used to have the radio on, listen to football on the radio while I played FIFA or Call of Duty. I can listen to music, I can listen to podcasts, I can listen to, stuff like that whilst I game at the same time. Not single player games, but things that didn't require focus. FIFA has the same controls, Call of Duty has the same controls every year. So simple games like that, I can do that. I can multitask while watching TV shows and listening to music. When you're gaming, you can't do any of that. Because when you're gaming, you can't walk about the house. You can't really talk to other people around you because you've probably got your headset on. You're engaged. You can't get engaged in a conversation, right? You can't drive to work. When you game, your focus is entirely on the game. So that was the first problem that Microsoft had. Satya Nadella and Phil Spencer, they're comparing it to services that are different. They're not gaming services. I understand why they wanted to do it, but it's not right. That's the first problem. Now, the other problem is that you think about this logically, there's always going to be people who play games back to back all the time, non-stop, back to back games, right? But most people don't do that. Most people don't play endless amount of games each month. The average person who tends to play 1, maybe 2 games a month, right? That's the norm. Most people play, I don't know, 6 to 10 games, new ones a year. That's it. They ain't got time for more. That's brand new games, right? Sometimes even less than that. And I'm not talking about playing Fortnite or FIFA or Call of Duty. I'm talking about new games. 6 to 10 new games. And then you just fall back to your FIFAs and your Call of Duties and your Fortnites of this world. The perception of most people is that I don't need a subscription service. I don't need to play hundreds of games. When I finish my current game, I'll buy the next one. I'm ready to move on. And some people don't like subscription services. That's just the way it is. Some people like them. They're convenient. It's not a problem. If I've said before many times, you've got a big family, you've got kids, subscription services could be fine. But the vast majority of gamers don't want it. They don't want to pay for a monthly fee and not own a game. And that's a big part. Ownership is a big thing. And the other thing is, look at the games that come out into Game Pass. They're different games, right? They're there to cater to a lot of different gamers. But when people play games, not everyone likes every type of game, right? Some people like to play just horror games. Some people love like the Resident Evil series and they'll play Silent Hill because it taps into that genre. Some people like shooters and they'll play all the Call of Duty games. They'll play all the Battlefield games. Some people like story-driven games and they'll play just those. So Game Pass doesn't answer that question because you're not offering a complete genre of one style of game. That's another issue. And there's lots more issues I've got here. Corey is saying, when you buy 2 of the 8 major publishers that are not a platform holder, it is impossible not to have a metric ton of redundancies. MS needs to get leaner to be profitable so they can move with the market. Yeah, I'll come on to that. I'll come on to bloat. Petrov is saying, lies of Phil. Russell is saying, ABK cheerleaders brought into Phil's plan. This is a result. Price increases, layoffs, consolidation. Microsoft has been a net negative for games industry, turning gaming into a service. It has been. It's terrible for gaming. So the next problem, right, is this endless cycle, which then destroys Xbox. You now got Microsoft and Game Pass but it now wants to attract more people to Game Pass. So what does it do? How do we get casual players into Game Pass? We've got this service. We've set it up. We've started to see subscriptions. But how do we get 50 million subscribers? How do we get 100 million subscribers? What do? Let's take all the biggest games, drop them in there. Okay. So that's what they do. They go out and they start acquiring studios left, right, and center, regardless of the cost. $69 billion. $69 billion. Regardless of the cost, just buy it, drop it into Game Pass. So they're not just buying studios, they're now buying publishers, all to feed Game Pass, in the hope that by dropping in games like Call of Duty, Fallout, Fable, whenever that's supposed to come out, Starfield and the rest, the hope is that people would flock to Game Pass. So Microsoft kept buying. They spent close to, $100 billion on studio acquisitions, and not to forget the teams and everything else that goes into the acquisition. And spending, let's be honest, was out of control. Another problem Microsoft didn't realize, or maybe they did and it was too late, or they didn't want to face the problem, but by constantly banging, think about this, constantly banging the drum, you hear this, all you hear is day one Game Pass. Play it with Game Pass. Day one Game Pass. It's in Game Pass. Day one Game Pass. If you constantly drum that into people and condition gamers to expect games day one on Game Pass, what kind of mentality do you expect your gamers to have? It's not their fault. I don't blame the gamers. You have been putting out marketing that for the last, 5 years, 10 years, that's all it's been saying is day one Game Pass, day one Game Pass, get it on Game Pass, day one game. That's all you hear. So naturally, when a game comes out, what are people going to think? Is it in Game Pass? No. Well, then I'm not playing it. I'm paying my monthly rental service. I'm not paying any more extra. That's the mentality that you've kind of cultivated, that mentality. You think about it, right? Every time a game comes to Xbox, what's the first thing that people say? Is it in Game Pass? When a game comes to Xbox, the first question is it in Game Pass? That's the first question. And I'll go back to that discussion we had earlier. I'm fascinated to see what the Helldivers 2 numbers are going to be like. Fascinated. I want the game to do well. I want people to buy into it. It's a good game. It's not my kind of game. I don't play live service, but I'm fascinated. But anyway, let's not go back to that Helldivers topic. Let's continue moving forward. So you've got Microsoft promoting Game Pass, right? Buying up all these studios. And what they're inherently doing is building and growing a community of gamers who don't spend money on buying games. They may spend a little bit of money on microtransactions, but if the game is not in Game Pass, they won't buy it. Razi saying, exactly right. How many games can any responsible adult play each month? Exactly. You can only play so much. I'll buy the games I love in a physical form and support the developers, or wait for a good sale on PSN and buy. Yeah, I think a lot of people do that. I know some people love waiting for games to drop into Game Pass or PS Plus. Absolutely fine. If that's how you want to do it, not a problem. But I know the vast majority of people will just say, look, I'm playing a game. I ain't got time for anything else. When I finish this game, I'll buy the next one. If it's in sale, happy days. And that's generally the kind of way people tend to shop and buy their games. Petrov is saying day one on Game Pass has killed Xbox. I think so. I think so. Yeah, Russell, they've changed the tier system, so not all games now drop. Which another confusing message. Not all games now drop into Game Pass day and date. Tox is saying you've heard a lot of people subscribing to Game Pass to play the full game, then they cancel Game Pass and get a full refund. Yeah, it's just, and that's why you hear a lot of people saying, a lot of industry experts, not people, forget YouTubers, forget people on X and social media, actual people in the gaming industry, studio heads, people at Rockstar, people at other big studios. You've had, I forget the name, the guys at Arcane Studio have come out, and others. Lots of other people have come out, experts in the industry, are saying we can't do it. It's unsustainable. It doesn't work. Sony have come out and said it can't do it. Nintendo have come out and said we can't do it. Are you telling me if a subscription service was sustainable, do you not think Sony and Nintendo would have done it? Of course they would. Of course they would have. But It's not sustainable. Unless you've got unlimited money, you can't do it. So this leads to another problem. Let me get a drink. This leads to another problem, right? Third-party devs now are questioning whether they should release games on Xbox if they're not getting a return on their investment. They would rather prioritize development on Nintendo, PC, and PlayStation rather than Xbox. That's a worry, isn't it? So Microsoft goes out and does deals to drop those games into Game Pass day and date, further adding to the spiraling cost of Game Pass. It's out of control. You see what's happening now? We've got this vicious cycle. It's out of control. It's never ending. Feed Game Pass. Feed Game Pass. We need games. Just drop it into Game Pass. Third-party games are now prioritizing optimization for PlayStation. And the fact that you can play third-party games, the fact that you can play games on PC, right? Game Pass games, and the fact that third-party developers are prioritizing PlayStation, all of a sudden, your console sales are dropping. Hardware sales are dropping. So now Microsoft is discovering that, hey, our gamers aren't buying our games anymore. The hardware is in decline. Shareholders are demanding a return on their investment. What do? How are we going to pivot? So Microsoft, what does it do? It does two things. Firstly, we're going to take our games and place them onto PlayStation and Nintendo, thinking to themselves that those games on those platforms, or those gamers on those platforms, will buy our games. So they start releasing games on PlayStation. And it's not great. The games are not optimized, right? Indiana Jones, I think, did okay. But Doom was a disaster. It was terrible. It wasn't even optimized. It didn't have that polish, right? The games didn't even have physical copies or didn't have the data on the discs. And so let's just say the vast majority of gamers are not impressed when those games came out on PlayStation. But Microsoft did sell some. They did sell some of those games. I think Forza did really well on PlayStation, right? It did really well. So they made some money back, but there are no red lines. And they'll ensure going forward that more games are on disc, fully optimized for PlayStation, and all the data is on the disc, right? And lo and behold, Hellblade 2 is now 60 frames per second on PlayStation. It's on disc to make it attractive to their own competitors. So the game will sell a few copies. It will do okay on PlayStation. It's not going to make tons of money, but it will give Microsoft some return. And the other thing Microsoft did to try and bring in some additional revenue is they increased the price of their declining hardware. It wasn't selling well, but they increased the prices, so that makes sense. Shambolic, these leadership decisions. King's Blood is saying, now that term from Robocop makes sense. I buy that for $1 Game Pass. Yeah. Miguel, you say Xbox killed itself. Yeah. GLP Gaming saying, personally, I think Xbox just needs to rebrand to MS Gaming and become just a publisher and have Game Pass if you want it, like Ubisoft Plus. Toxie didn't buy the new Doom. Yeah, had some problems, Doom did. Yeah, Xbox is rebranding. It's rebranding Xbox to Microsoft Gaming. That's going to happen. I'm not going to talk about it today. I will talk about it in the future. I think if you get a chance, I think Phil Spencer's title has changed. Head of Microsoft Gaming or something along those lines. It's not Xbox anymore, but that hasn't been announced officially. It's gone under the radar. So my point on this is you've got all these leadership decisions going on, right? Everything we've talked about, all these leadership decisions at Xbox. And Xbox has a problem, right? Of course, along with any acquisition comes bloat. I think Corey, you might have mentioned this, right? You get bloat. You get studios and publishers that you've acquired that have multiple duplicate roles and people doing the same job, efficiency, and it drops, right? Productivity drops. So you want to streamline your business. And we've seen that over the last 18 months with thousands of people being laid off, thousands, right across the business, all over Microsoft and gaming. Right, this is the third round of gaming, third round of layoffs that we've seen across Microsoft. It's awful. Then we have AI being implemented and the advancement of AI, which we know is impacting many different industries. But what really rubs salt into the wound here is that Microsoft were in that message to Sheffield. We're excited to be heading to Gamescom. What a time to be excited if you're Microsoft. Laying off 9,000 people, but still excited to go to Gamescom to talk about how they can implement AI within game development, replacing all those people with AI. It's not a good look, is it? It's not a good look. So I'm not opposed to AI, right? I don't think we should be. We shouldn't be, rightly or wrongly. I think we have to embrace technology as technology continues to evolve and develop. You know, what we have to do, we cannot bury our heads in the sand and ignore progress. And AI, whether we like it or not, is happening. AI and other technologies are moving forward. They're not going to go away. So we have to think about how to embrace AI in the business, in gaming, or any of the business that you're working in. And what Microsoft should have been doing is working with, maybe they have done this, I don't know. I'm just going off what I feel, gut instinct. What they should have done was work with those studios to see how they can utilize AI within game development, iron out the repetitive stuff, make game development more efficient. Maybe they have done that. Maybe that's why they fired so many people. But AI is not going away. But that's not the sole reason why everyone within those gaming teams has got laid off. There's a combination of lots of factors here. I mean, there's lots of ways AI can help improve game development and processes within that development lifecycle. Like I said, to be fair, we don't know if Microsoft is already planning on doing that or not. We don't know how Microsoft is going to deploy AI. But to lay off so many people and then start talking about how essentially you're going to replace them with AI tells me all I need to know. But what I will say is any studio looking to deploy AI within game development, purely AI, and leave out that human touch, they're going to get a rude awakening, because those games are going to be soulless, right? No heart, no emotion, no empathy. We see it all the time, right? With AI generated video content. I know AI is getting really good, but a lot of people can tell, maybe not all the time, but most of the time, when you look at an AI generated video on YouTube, TikTok, or Facebook, they lack something. There's that human element missing. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, and Microsoft is not going down the route of replacing all its developers with AI technology, but we'll find out. I mean, it's really disheartening. Gaming is an art form. Can AI do that art form? Can it really deliver? Can it express itself like a human? These are the important questions we should be asking right now. I feel like I'm talking to Sonny, right? You know who Sonny is, right? The robot in iRobot. Will Smith interrogating a robot, talking to the robot who calls himself Sonny, talking about a robot, whether a robot can generate art or paint in a creative way. AI in gaming is a divisive subject, but it's a discussion we need to start having. Russell is saying, if AI is so great, then replace Phil Spencer with it. Petrov is saying Skynet is here. Yeah, once it develops consciousness, we're in trouble. Raz is saying AI and technology are essential, but the human element is also, I 100% agree. Tox is saying, if AI makes development faster and easier for the devs, I'm all for it. Russell is saying, what's good for the market ain't necessarily good for developers and customers. Tox is saying they lack human touch. Russell is saying Xbox has conditioned the customer that games aren't just another product. Yeah, you know what? You can see it whenever you watch TikTok, YouTube, these kind of AI generated videos. You can tell it's AI generated 99% of the time. I know AI is getting really good and it's getting harder, but I'm convinced if you play a game that's generated purely out of AI, you will be able to tell the difference that it's been completely made by AI, because it will lack that depth that we need. We want that depth. It's why so many people enjoy Sony first party games. There's I don't know, like a connection. There's an emotional level. There's just something there with those games, the first party games, that people love. They buy into it. There's a connection. There's an emotional connection with those kind of games. If you know, you know. You know, if you can't feel it, you can't feel it. But anyway, if you put all those things into the mix, gamers not buying games, Game Pass conditioning gamers to expect games for free, Satya Nadella, Phil Spencer thinking they could do the Netflix of gaming with Game Pass, releasing games day and day into Game Pass and onto PC, releasing games onto all platforms, making console irrelevant, overspending on acquisitions, increasing hardware prices even when they're not selling. And the adoption of AI across Microsoft, in particular the gaming division, probably is the final nail in the coffin. All that put together has resulted in these layoffs. And we've also had multiple studios close, right? We've had, I've made a list here. We've had Everwild, right? That was a new IP in development since 2019. That was cancelled. Perfect Dark reboot, cancelled. The studio, the initiative, closed. That was supposed to be a quadruple game or studio. I remember people talking about that when it was first announced. That shut down. There was a game called Blackbird, which is an unannounced MMORPG from ZeniMax Online Studios. That was in development since 2018. That was cancelled. Multiple unannounced projects cancelled under the Xbox banner. Matt Booty's memo confirmed several unspecified titles across Xbox game studios were also cut. One of the best studios at Xbox is Turn 10 Studios, who make Forza. They had half their staff let go. 70 people let go from that studio. 50%. Ridiculous. Consistently deliver kind of 89, 90 Metacritic rated games, and they've had their studio slashed in half. Raven Software had significant job cuts, but the studio is still alive and kicking. 343 Industries, part of Halo Studios, or formerly Halo Studios. Well, they're currently Halo Studios. Yeah, they are currently Halo Studios. They had staff let go. ZeniMax Online Studios, besides Blackbird, have had multiple layoffs. And Candy Crush, the developer's king, have lost 200 staff in Stockholm. So, ridiculous amount of layoffs. And that was just a handful of information that I got, but there's more. There's more developers let go across the wider studios at Xbox. Toxic saying lack of human touch. Petrov saying look at MindsEye. Oh, we are coming on to MindsEye, buddy. We are coming on to MindsEye shortly. Russell, the gloves are off. Tox, rest in peace. Time to unionize. Right, look. If you look at all these decisions, right, all these decisions have led us to where we are now. All these are leadership decisions. The overspending on acquisitions, going down the Game Pass route, releasing games on every platform, putting games in day and date onto PC, onto Game Pass. It's all leadership decisions, increasing prices. So my question is, does there need to be a leadership change at Xbox? Should Phil Spencer still be in a job? Think about it. It's a disaster what's happening there. Jim Ryan, they got rid of him. He was at PlayStation for 30 odd years. Yes, it was disguised as retirement, but Sony ain't going to come out and sack someone like Jim Ryan. They would do it behind closed doors and force him out, and that's what happened. Phil Spencer, should he still be in a job? What about the other leadership team? You know, Matt Booty, Sarah Bond, Aaron Greenberg, and the rest. Do they need a clean slate? I say looking after, but do they need a clean slate leading Xbox or Microsoft Gaming, as it's going to be called in the future? So, can him now? Petrov is saying get rid of him now. It's yeah, I don't know what to say really about Phil Spencer. The focus surely should be on quality. If you make common sense, right? If you make a good game and it plays well, it looks good, good story, good gameplay, people will play the game. If it's a good game, people will buy the game. I don't understand why that's difficult to understand for the leadership at Xbox. Why encourage games that you spent, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars? You're never going to get that money back by just dropping it into Game Pass. I don't get it. I don't understand the mentality. But it feels as if there needs to be a leadership change across senior Xbox. Who knows if it's going to happen, right? Who knows? So I think it's time to move on. I think it's time to move on to topic number 4, and that is the MindsEye discussion. My favorite topic right now. Again, this is multiple studios are reporting the same story. I've picked PlayStation Universe. Right. So, Builder Rocket Boy CEO reportedly states MindsEye will be relaunched. So let's have a look at this end. So Leslie Benzies, the CEO of MindsEye, developer Builder Rocket Boy, has indicated that the Trouble game will be relaunched at some point, with employees claiming that Benzies has again blamed the game's struggle on external saboteurs. I don't know how we can blame external people for ruining MindsEye. According to statements obtained by IGN, Benzies addressed Builder Rocket Boy staff following MindsEye's troubled launch, where he mentioned about relaunching the game. So, sources told IGN that Benzies finally addressed staff following the release of MindsEye in a brief video call yesterday, July the 2nd. According to 2 people present who asked not to be named in order to protect their careers, Benzies insisted Builder Rocket Boy would bounce back and relaunch MindsEye, blaming the studio and the game's struggle on internal and external saboteurs, among other things. Last week, Builder Rocket Boy revealed that it had started a consultation process that may result in job losses after it was reported that up to 100 people could be laid off. MindsEye launched on June the 10th for PS5, PC and Xbox, but was plagued with various technical issues and subsequently received poor reviews. Builder Rocket Boy was quick to respond to the issues, saying it was working around the clock to improve the game's performance, and later said it was heartbroken to see many players experience the issues. Absolute bollocks was it heartbroken. They knew every single problem the game had before it launched. They're developing the damn game. How are they not going to know what's wrong with the game? Pathetic using excuses like that. Corey saying Leslie Benzies looking crazy right now. It is. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You know, mine's like what can only be described as one of the worst games launched in 2025. Maybe the worst in recent years. Certainly since Cyberpunk 2077 came out. And the CEO wants to relaunch the game following on from the disaster. I mean, what do you guys think? If the game is relaunched, if they relaunch MindsEye, does it have a chance? Would people, if you haven't already purchased it, would you then go out and buy it knowing that it's been relaunched? Would that be a sign to say to you, oh, okay, they must have fixed it? Or do you think they're going to try and rip people off again? Russell is saying MindsEye is painfully generic and broken. It's pathetic. It's absolutely a shambles. Shambles. Toxie saying technical issues. I saw Angry Joe review the game was broken. It is broken. So, I mean, they talk about. He made a statement about how, and the statements come from the top. This is not. I'm not even going to go at the developers. This is just purely shareholders, stakeholders, leadership. Right? Oh, we're heartbroken that people are finding this game awful. We're heartbroken at how it's been received. What are they heartbroken about? What the fuck have they been doing at the studio? They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly the state of the game. They know what they released. And like I said, it's absolute bollocks what he's talking about. He's full of it. And how can you blame external people for a game that's broken? If a game is crap, people are going to say it's crap. And that's what the reviewers are saying. They're not going to say that if the game is good, are they? Well, you might get people who, what do they call it? You might get people who review bomb it because they're, fanboys, but the critical reviews will still be good, right? This game has been ripped apart because it's shite. It's not a good game, and it's broken on top of that. There's lots of issues here, guys, lots of issues. I streamed it, and only when I went back after the stream, I was looking at the gameplay, and it wasn't great. Corey is saying, this man is worse than Phil Spencer. He refuses to just admit that they released a crap game. 100% right. You know what? There were people saying that Leslie Benzies is not a nice person, let's put it that way, before this game come out. You know what? He's only, prior to that, he's only worked on Red Dead, GTA games and Red Dead, right, at Rockstar. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't care what people say. I like to experience it for myself. But now this game's come out, and he's come out with all this nonsense. He's got zero credibility as far as I'm concerned, him and the studio. I said this a couple of weeks back. If you're working at Build a Rocket Boy, would you even put that on your CV when you're looking for your next job? Would you even want that on your CV? Petrov, you'd say, I'd let Digital Foundry take a look at it first. Didn't they do it? I'm sure they did an analysis, and they referred to it as one of the worst games they've ever played, or something along those lines. They came out with a comment now. It escapes my mind. What did they say? It escapes me now, but it's a disaster. It was a disaster. Preach. Preach. Yeah. How about try fixing the game before putting out a remastered version? Yeah, I completely agree. Russell is saying Cyberpunk proved that you can launch broken games and face no consequences. Days Gone, Cyberpunk, Callisto, MindsEye, normalization, broken games. The thing is, right? The thing is, Russell, and I'll talk about it now. You make a valid point. This is not about allowing studios to get away with it. Though all those studios were criticized, right? All those studios you mentioned were criticized. Here's the thing, right? If you're a new game studio, and this is the point, this studio is a new game studio. Build a Rocket Boy is a brand new studio. Regardless of where you've worked before, regardless of who you've worked for before, regardless of the games you put out before, you're at a new studio. The studio has zero pedigree, no history, no prior games made for that studio. Nothing that gamers can hang their hats on and say, that's the studio that made X game. Build a Rocket Boy's made fuck all. They've got nothing to give people confidence. Our only confidence came from knowing that this guy was at Rockstar Studios. That was it. That was all I was hanging my hat on. So if the studio is going to make a complete unknown game, an unknown quantity, then the studio has got to make sure that that game is ready to release. They've got to make sure that the game is in great fucking working order. Make it great, not full of bugs or broken mechanics within the game that takes the immersion away, right? They've got to make a game that works first and foremost. If the game launches and it's unplayable, it's 100% your fault as the development team, studio leadership, or anyone else that works at the studio for releasing this piss poor version of the game. Blaming external people, reviewers and competitors in a competitive industry may have some weight behind it if your game was any fucking good. But the game was and is still an absolute joke. I mean, the game, it barely runs at 30 frames per second on the PlayStation 5. And it was marketed as running as 60 frames on the PlayStation 5 Pro. It doesn't even hit 30. It drops to 20. That was by Digital Foundry. 20 frames per second in shootout scenes, right? The NPCs are so fucking stupid. They sit in the car when you're shooting at them. There's no logic. The AI is shit. It's flawed, right? It responds bizarrely. The assets disappear when you're playing the game. You're walking in a cutscene and the player disappear. It's crap. The game world is empty. It's such a letdown at how this game was marketed. I was looking forward to this game, guys, so much. And you mentioned, Russell, you mentioned Cyberpunk, right? Yeah, Cyberpunk got fucking hammered when it first came out on consoles. It was in an unplayable state, right? They had their game removed by Sony from PSN. They were giving out refunds. But the people at the studio, what they had to fall back on was they had some credit in the bank. It's not acceptable, don't get me wrong, it's not acceptable, but they had credit in the bank. They had the Witcher games to fall back on, right? So it's still a shitty move from CD Projekt Red, right? But they had something to fall back on. So they went back, they developed the game, they reworked it, and within a couple of weeks they released it and it was fine. And they kept on building on it. Still unforgivable for what they did. That's never going to be forgivable. Having a game that's broken on launch is never acceptable. End of. Shitty move from CD Projekt Red, but they had some credit in the bank, right? That was my point. But these fucking crooks at Builder Rocket Boy, well, the studio has no pedigree whatsoever. Bunch of con artists, not the devs. Leadership. They developed a game which fails in every way. They charge people for it. Nothing happens. They've updated the game. It's not enough. It's been out over a month. Still dog shit. My question to you guys is, and I asked this at the start, if you purchase MindsEye, would you go back to it if they've relaunched it? Or if you haven't purchased MindsEye, would you be tempted to try it if they've relaunched it? King's Blood, you're saying there's demos out there that are better than that game. Yeah, 100%. 100%. 100%. Russell is saying you blame capitalism, one of the few industries that has little to no regulation. I argued for this in not at the House of Commons or not with government. I mean, on a video, saying that there should be something in place where if a game comes out like this, where it's not as advertised, we should be getting our money back. I'm still bitter that I haven't had a refund for this game, but that's beside the point. If a game comes out and it doesn't work as intended, then, you know, you should get a refund, but I don't want to get wound up again about this topic. MindsEye's a fucking mess. Pisses me off, this game, every time I talk about it. Tox is saying only 2 games in your lifetime has Sony removed from their store: Cyberpunk and Concord. Yeah, I mean, obviously we all know what happened to Concord. It was just disaster on launch. And Cyberpunk, yeah, again, unforgivable for releasing, unforgivable for demonstrating and getting all these reviewers out to play their game, but it was all PC. All the footage shown was PC related. Not one console gameplay was shown or released prior to the game coming out, and when it came out, it was a fucking disaster. Never again will a lot of people buy a brand new CD Projekt Red game on launch. They'll wait, then they'll buy it. So it does do damage. And my point earlier about what does this say about Builder Rocket Boy? What does it say about their studio? I mean, they're already talking about laying off 100 people. I don't know if they can recover from this. King's Bloody saying let the game burn in hell. Yeah, well, it's I don't know how they're going to recover. I know they were reliant on people developing content for the game, and in theory that sounded great, but you need a bloody game that works in the first place for that to to take off, right? So yeah, it's interesting to see how this develops going further. Tox, you're going to wait for the PS Plus free game of the month to play MindsEye. Well, I don't know what kind of state it's going to be in. See, yeah, exactly, Raz. The trailers for this game looked fantastic, right? And that's what a lot of people got. I got carried away looking at the trailers. I thought, brilliant. Can't wait to try this game. A new IP. We're always excited for a new IP. Always give new IP the benefit of the doubt. Even if it has a little bit of a buggy launch, or if it's not quite right, I can make my peace with it. But if it's completely broken and shite on release, that's a problem. The GTA comparisons you're saying, yeah. I agree. I think we all got conned. Russell is saying cyber military aesthetic looks cool, but gameplay is severely lacking. The game lacks depth. Concept-wise, it's good. I like the concept. I like the idea of MindsEye. But the world is really empty. I don't know how they've got to this stage. A lot of people, when we did the live stream or around the live stream time, when the game was getting heavily criticized, a lot of people were saying that the game was, the development team were heavily in debt, and they just thought, fuck it, we'll just release it as it is. Get some money back, recoup some money. But that's done more damage to the studio. Surely, right? Kingsblood, you're saying, I remember seeing this game on a channel that shows off trailers for new games. It was a concept everywhere. I was like, there's no way in hell they can pull this off. And here we are. Sadly, that is the case, Kingsblood. MindsEye is a long con. It certainly is, Petrov. I mean, look at these. These are trailers, right? Trailers running in the background. Look how good it looks. It's nothing like this. It's nothing like this. The game is nowhere near this good. I don't know if I'm ever going to go back into playing it. I mean, I've got it now, haven't I? I've got to live with it. But unfortunately, I have. That's me with MindsEye. So, guys, first part of the podcast is done. We have gone through the news, the stories, the rumors, the leaks, of the big topics. We're now looking at the gaming spotlight, which is a bit like a quick fire round. So we quickly go through the games. We run through the games that I've listed here. And yeah, we'll see what you guys make of this. Kingsweet, I'm sorry you have to suffer, brother. No refund. No refund. No. I had to suffer. I live streamed it on the channel. So quickly, just before we move on to the game spotlight, I streamed it on the channel. It was fun playing on the stream, and I think it was fun because you guys tuned in. It made it more engaging. I wasn't focusing really on the game that much. I was doing the chat and stuff like that. But when I stopped playing and went back and reviewed it, there was some error. There were some problems, and I tried it again, and it wasn't good. And then I heard Sony PlayStation were thank you, Raz. I appreciate that. I appreciate the condolences. I heard Sony PlayStation were doing refunds, so I tried. I was hoping. I've never done a refund on a digital game, and I don't buy digital games usually. I only bought this one to stream on the channel. So I contacted Sony support. The only way you can get a refund is by chat. Right, messaging, which is weird. I thought you could just pick the phone up and get a refund. So I had to do the chat thing, and I was like number 60 or 70 in the queue. It took ages. It took me over an hour. And they took all my details, and they said, sorry, you can't have a refund. You've played the game. That was it. Conversation over. So bitterly disappointed. I was trying to fight my my case. You know, according to trading standards, you've sold a game that doesn't work. It's not fit for purpose. According to UK law, you've broken trading standard rules. That didn't fly with Sony, unfortunately. I wasn't able to get a refund, so I'm stuck with this damn game. So maybe I have to give it a try in the future. Toxie saying No Man's Sky also comes to mind, but I doubt MindsEye will have the long support. Yeah, I mentioned No Man's Sky a while back. It might have been on a video. No Man's Sky has had like so many updates, and where it is now, that game is so different to when it launched. And what the devs have done a fantastic job with No Man's Sky. And I tell you what, if Build a Rocket Boy does the same thing with MindsEye, fair enough. Hats off to them if they deliver that. I don't think they will, because MindsEye, the guys at No Man's Sky didn't come out and say, oh, someone sabotaged us. Our competitors are having digs at us. Everyone's against us. This is a deliberate ploy to dethrone the game. No one said that. They just said, shit, we better start developing the game so people play it. And they just got to work. And every few months, there was an update. Every few months, a new update, a new update. And like I said, where it is now, the game is just in a different place to where it was when it first came out. So No Man's Sky is terrific, and that studio deserves a lot of credit. But we'll see, Hey, if MindsEye turn it around, then I will credit them for that. I just don't think it's going to happen. Razzie saying I got robbed. Yeah, I got robbed. I got conned. I think a lot of people got conned. I think the thing is, because you play a digital game, you download it and you've played an hour and a half, 90 minutes, you can't have a refund. That was the policy. And my argument was, that's not the reason why I want a refund. I want a refund because the game's broken. It doesn't work properly. You advertised it as playing at 60 frames per second on the PlayStation 5 Pro. That's not true. It plays at 20 frames per second, right? You got assets disappearing. It's clunky. It doesn't work properly. It's a broken game. It's not sold as advertised. That didn't wash with Sony. So anyway, you live and learn, right? I'm never buying a digital game like that again from an unknown studio. I'll buy it if I have to buy it. I don't normally buy digital games. If I do, it'll be from Sony first party or Rockstar. Otherwise, it's always physical. Toxie saying MindsEye will be the new Cyberpunk success story. Well, I hope so. I don't want to see games fail. I hope so. If they turn it around, fair play to them. Fair play to them if they do it. Right, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at these games then. So we're in the gaming spotlight. Let me get my bearings here. So bit of a change on the screen. So I don't know if anyone remembers. I hope I get the pronunciation right. It's Call of Juarez, right? Juarez. Call of Juarez. A new Call of Juarez game in development, apparently. And this game always reminds me of like a Red Dead Redemption and a Mad Max, that kind of game. Got bullet time in it as well. Really great set of games when they. I think it was the PlayStation 2 or 3 era. Fantastic set of games. So the article for this game says, these are only rumours, by the way. So Insider Gaming has claimed a new report that Techland is working on a new Call of Juarez title, following reports earlier that the company has ceased development of 2 titles. Reporter Tom Henderson stated that Call of Juarez sequel has been in production for a while and is set to utilize the Unreal Engine, which differs from previous installments which were powered by the Chrome engine. So Techland is the developer behind the previous Call of Juarez titles, although it's been a while since we saw the franchise. The last entry was called Call of Juarez Gunslinger back in 2013. So what is that? The PlayStation 4 launched in 2013, didn't it? I think. Yeah. So PS3, PS4 era set of games. I think these games were fantastic back in the day. And so while the publishing rights to Call of Juarez series was held by Ubisoft between 2006 and 2018, Techland acquired the rights to the IP as of 2018. Nothing else is known about the new entry in the franchise, and Techland hasn't officially announced anything new about the new Call of Juarez game at the time of this report. It looks all right, doesn't it? I think this game. I mean, this is the old game, right? This is Gunslinger, Call of Juarez Gunslinger. So this was using the old engine, the Chrome engine, as they referenced it in that article. But the new one's going to be using Unreal Engine. And if it's going to be something similar to this, like a Rockstar style game, a Red Dead Redemption, I get Mad Max vibes, maybe a little bit of Borderlands in there too. It looks pretty decent, and it's got bullet time as well. Tox, you're kind of excited for this game? You played the original back in the day? Yeah, I'd be excited for this game. You know, if you love Westerns, right, or if you're a fan of Red Dead Redemption, those kind of games, I want to learn more about this. I'm hoping it is true. And if you do remember the first series of games, this one's Gunslinger. It's a kind of a linear first-person shooter game, and it's very similar to previous Call of Juarez games. And the game consists of completing objectives, going through, progressing in the game. The main part of gameplay elements involve bullet time and gunslinger duels. So I thought, back in the day, brilliant set of games. Haven't seen them for years. I don't even know if this is in PlayStation Plus. But if the rumor does turn out to be true, I'd be excited for it. Western Call of Duty, basically. Yeah. Yeah, I think it looks good. So that was Xbox, PlayStation, PC. Online multiplayer. Yeah, I think this game looks pretty decent. Well, the series, the franchise. So that was Call of Juarez. Next up, this is interesting. This is Battlefield 6. So let's have a look here. So this is a reported rumor. Battlefield 6 budget has reached over $400 million. EA wants the game to hit 100 million players. That is unbelievable if that happens to be true. So this is coming from PlayStation Universe. I think most of these are now. A detailed report posted on Ars Technica has claimed that the new Battlefield title has already reached over $400 million in terms of budget, while publisher EA is looking to achieve a player count of 100 million players, a figure significantly higher than anything the series has ever reached to date. One anonymous source speaking to the site stated that Battlefield 1, which is the most successful game in the franchise, hit maybe around 30 million plus players, while Battlefield 2024 has hit around 22 million players. So the Ars Technica spoke with a number of employees at EA who have worked or are still working or is still involved with production of the new Battlefield game, spanning multiple studios across different countries. They spoke of stress and long hours, with every individual having either taken leave due to exhaustion or knew someone who had. That's not a good sign, is it? The report added that very few people working within these studios feel that the 100 million target is achievable, with those who've worked at DICE for a very long time being particularly skeptical of the figure. So one of the sources said that among the things that we're predicting is that we won't have to cannibalize anyone else's sales, that there's just such an appetite out there for shooters of this kind that we will just naturally will be able to get the audience that we need. I'm not sure about that statement. The game has to be good. If the game's not good, they're not naturally going to get 100 million players. EA is set to fully unveil Battlefield 6, or whatever that game ends up being called, at some point this summer, with the game expected to arrive by the end of March 2026. The new Battlefield game is being tested extensively via Battlefield Labs, which has been leaking new footage steadily over the past few weeks. For example, we recently got a look at the classic rush mode in action, and prior to that, we got a sneaky look at the game's campaign. So, Battlefield 6 reportedly costing $400 million so far, and they want over 100 million players to play that game. That is incredible. Now, I understand that game budgets will, certainly in this era, they seem to be getting out of control. But the statement that just because people are interested in shooters and all of a sudden people are going to be interested in Battlefield, I don't think that's true. The game has to be good. People will be interested in Battlefield 6. You know, people have been looking forward to Battlefield 6 for a long, long time. So I think the intrigue is going to be there and people will want to play the game. Whether they will stick with the game, that is down to how the game is developed and how the game turns out. Yeah, I agree, Tox. I was actually really excited about Battlefield 2042. I really wanted a good game. But for whatever reason, they failed to deliver. It wasn't that good. It didn't have a single player campaign, did it? Battlefield 2042. It's just an online game, and it just wasn't. I didn't like it. I know Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 1 sometimes get criticized, but I enjoyed both of those games. I really liked them both. I had a blast playing them. I still play them every now and again. You can see one of them playing in the background. I think it's Battlefield 5, is it? Or Battlefield 1. Yeah, I really enjoyed them. But a $400 million budget is massive. It's incredible. It's an eye-watering amount. And don't get me wrong, if I'm excited for Battlefield 6, and if the game is good, I'll be on it all the time. And I would rather play a Battlefield game than a Call of Duty game. But that's a lot of money that they have to get it right. They have to make sure the testing is extensive and they get feedback from the players who are really going to be enjoying the game. The other aspect of this is the 100 million players that EA want. It's a tall order. I mean, even games like Fortnite haven't delivered 100 million players, have they? Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's record-breaking numbers we're talking about here. And the article quotes Battlefield 1 hitting 30 million plus players, which is great. But they're looking to do 3 times as much as that, more than 3 times. I'm not sure if that's going to be possible. The other thing they have to think about here, right, and it was mentioned in the article, the game is supposedly coming out by or before March 2026. Now, they have to get up to May. They've got up to May to get that player count, because we know what's happening in May, right? GTA 6 comes out. Now, they will have a period of grace because many games, I keep saying people, many games will lose their player count initially, certainly for the first 3 to 4 weeks, because when GTA 6 comes out, like the previous GTA 6 games, they will probably not launch straight away with an online mode. They usually launch the online mode a few weeks later, allowing everyone to enjoy the single player mode, and then Rockstar switch on online. I think the same will happen to GTA 6. So I think other games will see a dip in their play or their players for a couple of weeks when GTA 6 comes out, and then those players will come back to their games. But once Rockstar switches on their online mode, many of those online games will lose their players for a very, very long time. So my question to EA would be, how do they intend to get 100 million players playing on their game once GTA Online kicks in? How is that going to happen? Toxie saying the Battlefield 1 campaign missions look so good. They are. They're brilliant. They're fantastic. I love the... I enjoyed Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5. I know number 5 got a lot of stick, but I like those kind of World War shooters. World War 1, World War 2, that kind of time period. Campaigns are okay. They look fantastic. Of course, if you play them on PC, they look even better. But they still hold up pretty well. So yeah, I worry about Battlefield 6 hitting the numbers they claim they're going to hit, with GTA 6 coming out soon after Battlefield 6 launches. But we'll have to see what happens. We'll have to see. We'll watch this space. But interesting to see that they've already spent $400 and whatever million developing the game. So that's Battlefield. That's a little bit of kind of snippet of information about them. Next up, a game I'm looking forward to playing is Hell Is Us. Let's have a quick look at Hell Is Us. There was a snippet of information week gone. So Hell Is Us. So Hell Is Us turns gold ahead of PS5 September release. Rogue Factor has announced on X that Hell Is Us has officially hit gold status, which means production has wrapped and the game is on track for its launch later this year. Powered by Unreal Engine 5, Hell Is Us takes the form of a third-person action-adventure game that blends intense close-quarter combat with meaningful exploration, where players navigate a semi-open world in the midst of a civil war and rise of mysterious creatures that cannot be defeated by modern weaponry. Hell Is Us' unique exploration system ensures traditional elements such as maps, compasses, and quest markers, with players instead encouraged to forge a path on instinct alone. Meanwhile, you'll fend off attacks from creatures using swords, spears, axes, and other weapons that have been created specifically with battling supernatural entities in mind. Hell Is Us arrives September the 4th. Looking forward to this game. I don't know how you guys feel about Hell Is Us, but I like the fact that on Hell Is Us, the game's not going to hold your hand. You've got to explore and figure out how to do stuff. It's not necessarily an open world game. It's just an expanded map. So it has gone gold. Development is complete. The game is being readied for release, coming out September this year. I like it. It looks good to me. It looks excellent. But I still will be playing Metal Gear Solid when this game comes out. So it might get in the way of my experience of Metal Gear Solid that comes out end of August. So I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to dive into it straight away, although I really do want to play it. Toxie saying this is going to be a sleeper hit. Yeah, I do like it. I honestly, I really do. The question is going to be time again, isn't it? It's. I'm excited to be going into Metal Gear Solid, but I have played it before, right? This is a remake. We've played Snake Eater before. Hell Is Us is a brand new game. That's the only thing that conflicting thought in the back of my mind. I mean, the devs have already said that they're not going to make it easy for you in this game. They're not going to hold your hand in Hell Is Us. They want you to explore. You know, they want you to go and find your way around through exploration in the game, which to me sounds interesting. It's also meant to be pretty hard as well, but I don't know what the difficulty settings are within the game. We'll find out soon enough over the next few weeks. But yeah, I'm interested in this game. I think it's going to be good. Is it going to be a sleeper hit? There's some big hits this year. You know, massive games. And we've still got Ghost of Yotai to come out. Lost Souls aside, we haven't really seen much being advertised. That's coming out. The Mafia's coming out. So many games coming out in a short, condensed period of time. But Hell Is Us is on my radar and I want to dive into it. It's just finding the time. So that's Hell Is Us. Next up, we had Red Dead Redemption. And Red Dead Redemption has some new levels, new missions. Now, I don't know if you guys are fans of the online mode for Red Dead Redemption, but Rockstar has announced that Red Dead Online is receiving 4 new Telegram missions via the new Strange Tales of the West event. You can grab these by picking up Theodore Levin's letter at any post office or from the lock box at your camp. First up, there's the Undead Favored Strange Tales of the Plague, which sees the good people of Armadillo transformed into shambling zombies. To get to the bottom of the pandemic, you have to lay your hands on several diseased bodies so they can be scientifically examined while avoiding infection and battling against cultists. That sounds quite interesting, actually, that zombies mode. Red Dead Online takes a sci-fi turn with strange tales of modern science, where local scientists claim to have made artificial life that frequents the grounds of the Brathwaite Manor. It's up to you to bring the situation to light and destroy the automata that get in your way, while Strange Tales of the Bayou has you exploring the swamps of Lagara for unholy creatures, all the while coming under attack from swamp folk. Finally, Strange Tales of the Wilderness has you investigating reports of a missing scientist who was last spotted dabbling in stranger research on murders in tall trees. This will require you to bone up on your survival skills, crafting items and hunting for food while tracking down the missing scientist. Now, beyond all that, you can net 3 times RDOs and CP by helping Harriet Davenport catalogue wildlife of all shapes and sizes using lots of little... Yeah, I'm not going to read through all of that, but basically Red Dead Online has some additional content coming out, which is fantastic. So if you do play and enjoy Red Dead Online still, something excited to get your teeth stuck into. Raz, you're saying you haven't played the online version of Red Dead. You usually play these single player campaigns. Yeah. Yeah. The thing that I don't like about online modes, I don't know why it's jittering. It seems to be slowing down. What I don't like about the online modes in some of these games is that I kind of like the realistic or realism type of modes, right? You know, if you're playing, I'll give you an example. I play Call of Duty, right? Play Call of Duty. You go online, you go into an online mode, and people are running around with Fortnite outfits on, or capes and hats and things. It just takes that immersion away for me, anyway. That's why I don't like playing online modes. I'd rather stick with a single player game, but you know, I haven't really given Red Dead Online much time. Maybe it's worth giving it a shot. There's 4 new missions here. There's a zombie mode. Maybe it's worth playing. Red Dead Redemption 2 arguably is one of the greatest games ever made. It's magnificent in every way. The online mode it's not supported anymore, is it? Really? I mean, I know this has got 4 new missions, but Rockstar moved its teams from Red Dead Redemption over to GTA 6 for development. So when I read this article, I was kind of surprised that Red Dead Online had some additional missions. It is good that it has it, but I was kind of hoping that we'd get a single player DLC or something along those lines, but that's probably never going to happen, is it? But yeah, I still love the Red Dead single player game. Next up, Ghost Recon. Ghost Recon. I'm not sure why it's jittering. Let me just check my internet. Internet speed's fine. 500 megs a second right now. Should be a gig, really, to be fair. So we've got the new Ghost Recon game apparently in the works. So this is, according to Insider Gaming, the next mainline entry in the Ghost Recon franchise is set to enter its internal alpha phase later this year. The next Ghost Recon is supposedly codenamed Over, and sources have stated that the game is set to arrive some point in 2026. Furthermore, the process of going from internal alpha to final release could take as long as 12 months, which puts the game around fall 2026. Nothing else is confirmed at this stage. A previous report from the same site in March 2024 claimed that the next major Ghost Recon title would adopt a military simulation template featuring a first-person perspective and revoke around the fictional Naaman conflict. Insider Gaming also added that it was sent footage of the project, and it says it's somewhat similar to the Modern Warfare series or something akin to the tactical shooter Ready or Not. No details on an official reveal are available, but the report states that sources believe Ubisoft will keep details close to its chest for a while before returning next year with a massive Ubisoft Forward event. The last major entry in the series, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint, launched in 2019 and was met with mixed reviews. 6 years ago, that's a long time for this game. It didn't help that Ubisoft later added NFTs to Breakpoint prior to its closure in April 2022, with the game ultimately failing to meet sales expectations and is viewed as something of a major disappointment in the franchise. Beyond that, Ubisoft is working on a free-to-play entry in the series called Ghost Recon Frontlines. So, I used to play a lot of Ghost Recon games back in the day. I like these types of games. You know, military-style shooters, espionage-style. You know, you're going in behind enemy territory lines, kind of tactical shooters. I like those kind of games. But they've kind of lost their way, these Ghost Recon games. I'm hoping this is going to be good. I mean, 2026 has been slated as a fall 2026 release. So, man, next year's going to be stacked with so many games. But yeah, let's watch this space and see what happens. Next up, let's have a look. We have Ace Combat. Let's take a look at this. So, Ace Combat 7 was the last game we got, and that game came out quite some time ago. Let's see what the story says here. So Ace Combat celebrates its 30th anniversary as series director teases Ace Combat 8. And he goes on to say everything is in place, which suggests we're going to see Ace Combat 8. So let's hope I pronounce these names correctly. Kazutoki Kono, the series director on Ace Combat, has posted a special message to fans today as the franchise celebrates its 30th anniversary, including a teaser that possibly indicates Ace Combat 8 is on the horizon. The original entry in the series, known as Air Combat in the US and Europe, arrived for the PlayStation on June 30th, 1995. So the message here from Kono-san goes on to say, to all the fans who continue to support the Ace Combat series since the release of the first title in 1995, thanks to your unwavering support, the Ace Combat series has reached a remarkable milestone, its 30th anniversary in 2025. First and foremost, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to all our fans and everyone involved who have supported the series throughout the years. Thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart. This moment is our chance to return 30 years worth of appreciation to you. I believe that sustaining a legacy over 3 decades means far more than simply the passage of time. I've always shared this message with everyone involved in the series to deliver emotionally resonant, high quality experiences that exceed expectations, to spark excitement for what comes next, and then to meet that anticipation with even greater ambition. By continuing this cycle, we build a bond of trust with our players, and that bond is the trust expression of our gratitude. Over the past 30 years, times have changed. Values have shifted, technologies have evolved. Our company and our team have continually transformed to navigate these tides. In a word, we've embraced change. There were times we may not have fully met your expectations, but I also believe there were moments when we exceeded them, when we soared higher than anyone imagined. Namco's founder, Mayasa Nakamura, once said, "Only those who can adapt to change will survive." I joined Namco in 1994. Back then, I understood those words intellectually, but not yet from experience. Now I truly do. After these incredible decades, after 3 incredible decades of adopting to change, we've built an enduring bond of trust with all of you. That connection is the very force that has sustained the Ace Combat series and propelled it into the future. I can now feel this truth in every fiber of my being, and I am proud that our ongoing commitment to delivering value and earning your trust has led us to this 30th anniversary. And now we're ready. Everything is in place. It's time to take flight once again towards even greater heights. So that really is an indication that the next entry in the series of Ace Combat is essentially, I don't want to say ready, but it's on the way, isn't it? To make the 30th anniversary of Ace Combat, we could be getting a new game in the series. The director has hinted at it. And it's been a few years since the last one. Ace 7 really did well. I think it sold around 6 or 7 million copies on the PlayStation 4. Kingsblood, you're wondering if AI wrote that for him. Maybe. A lot of people use AI for script writing. But I mean, Ace Combat did really sell really well. Yeah, 6 or 7 million copies. And what was it? There was another. Do you guys remember Afterburner? It's a really old franchise, Afterburner. I used to love the Afterburner games, but I wouldn't mind trying something different. You know, take a break from single player games. Somebody in the comments or in the chat said it a couple of weeks back. You know, a palate cleanser, right? So you go out and you play your single player game. You enjoy it. You enjoy that experience. For me, that experience lasts a few weeks, maybe a couple of months. But after I've done with a single player game, I want to try something different. A palate cleanser. Normally I fall back on a FIFA or a Call of Duty or Battlefield just to clear my mind for a week, then move into the next single player game. I wouldn't mind playing an Ace Combat. I think that'd be quite exciting with current systems. Kingsblood, Afterburner. Yeah, you played the Afterburner. Yeah, 90s. Yeah, it was brilliant. But yeah, I wouldn't mind playing a game like this on PlayStation 5 Pro with PSSR 2.0 kicking it in. So let's move on to the last but not least. So this has been making the rounds again. Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Here we go. Right. And the remake really comes by way of the person who did the voice acting. So rumours of an Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag remake, they've gathered pace again over the weekend. And this was after Matt Ryan, the voice actor behind Edward Kenway from the 2013 swashbuckling adventure game, appears to have hinted that a remake of the title is indeed on the way. Speaking during a signature signing, Ryan was asked by a fan if he had completed Black Flag, prompting the actor to respond, "You might have to beat it again." And he's referring to Assassin's Creed Black Flag. The fan who was getting Ryan's signature added, "I have to beat them all again," with Ryan adding, "especially this one." And there's a reason I say that, but I can't tell you why. So Ubisoft hasn't announced an Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake yet, but rumours of the game have been doing the rounds for quite some time. Back in January 2024, it was revealed on LinkedIn profile of an artist working at Singapore, at the Ubisoft office in Singapore, that the Black Flag remake entered production back in 2023. A report on Insider Gaming from earlier this year suggested that Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake could arrive in 2026. So we had rumours of Black Flag in 2023. We've got the voice actor saying during the signing that, yeah, you're going to have to play it again, which is hinting that the game's coming out. There's going to be a remake. So if they started remaking this game in 2023, according to that LinkedIn page from the artist who worked at Ubisoft in Singapore, it means a remake of a game that's already been made takes about 3 years, give or take, right? So I would say they're saying in the report 2026. That sounds good. Maybe even 2027. 2026 sounds good. Black Flag, you guys have already said it in the comments. Black Flag is probably one of the better Assassin's. Is it one of the best? Probably. Certainly one of the top ones. One of the best Assassin's Creed games. So if this happens to be true, I'm in. I'm all in with this game. King's Bloody saying Black Flag is the best AC game ever. Tox, take my money. GLP Gamer, you're saying Black Flag is one of the best ones. Yeah, I agree. It's one of the best ones. So if this is being spruced up, should we say, for current gen, that's pretty good. I think that's a good sign. Yeah, I'm hoping. I don't know what's going to happen with Black Flag. You know, it still gets a lot of criticism. It still gets a lot of stick, but Assassin's Creed Shadows was the best Assassin's Creed game I've played in years. Years. I stopped playing. I think Origins was the last one I played. Then I stopped. And before that, Black Flag. But yeah, they've kind of went away from what made them great games. But Shadows was one of the best ones I played in a long time. But that's a very subjective, divisive discussion. But guys, we are at the end of the podcast. Let me thank you very much for joining me on the podcast. Thank you for taking part in episode 4, discussing all these topics. It's been a blast, as it always is, talking to you guys on the podcast, engaging with you guys. I appreciate you guys turning in all the time, day in, day out, sticking with the podcast from start to end. It's been awesome, guys. It's been awesome. Russell is saying non-stop DLCs, multiple seasons, stealth is yeah. They need to. Who said it on the talks? You said AC needs to go. AC1 needs to be remade. Yeah, they need to go back to that formula. What the game was originally, a stealth game, right? That's what made it. That's what made it what it was. It has gone a lot into RPG mechanics. Yeah, spam the thumbs up. We need likes, guys. We need likes, guys. That's going to do it for the podcast. It's been a blast. We smashed that 3-hour mark again, which is good. Seems to be where we kind of hit that mark every week, which is good. I want to get your thoughts going forward on the podcast. Yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on the news, rumors, leaks first part, gaming spotlight second part? Do you like it? Do you want to scrap it? Do you know, where can we improve? How do we go forward? Not today. This is not a conversation for today. Maybe it's a conversation and discussion for the next podcast. Maybe it's a post, a poll on the channel. But thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me know your thoughts on the way out on the new intro if you haven't seen it. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit that like button, and I will catch you on the next podcast.
Ooh.